Now, we're a little bit of a skeleton crew today because Mike Dawson is out of town and Chris Maxipata has fallen ill. So he's working from home, so he'll be with us for the news and like tweets and things like that. Jeff Leach is in studio. He's a comedian, he's a commentator, he's an actor, he's got a stand-up special, and it's called Jeff Leach, a Comedy Spectacular, and you can watch it right now on YouTube. Good to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you too. Thank you very much for having me on.
So I studied up on you a little bit.
Oh, yeah? What did you find out? What did you dig out of the archives?
Well, an interesting story, I guess. Some battles with depression, some battles maybe with substance, a friend that OD'd, a father that died of alcoholism very shortly thereafter, posing as a male prostitute.
We're starting with all the positive stuff. I can see.
Yeah.
And I've had an interesting life, that's for certain.
Yeah. Do you start off as an actor?
I started off as a DJ and a radio presenter, actually, back in the UK. So when I was at college studying at University of Warwick, I was doing commercial radio while I was already at college, and then I went on to do that for a few years. Started DJing and playing all over the world, and then did a few remixes. Nothing major, but for like Island Records and Ministry of Sound, a few dance tracks. And then I became a TV host for the BBC. Did that for quite a few years, and then I started my journey into stand-up comedy to try and get back to my acting, really, and then fell in love with stand-up. So that was it. I've stuck doing this old business. So
you're tour, obviously, Europe, UK, and making your way into the United States.
Yeah, well, I've been out here for about 9.5 years now. So the Comedy Cellar in New York City,
that's right. You're out in New York.
Helped bring me out to the States, and then I spent the first 4.5 years there. And then I've been in LA for the last 5.
Yeah, so people ask me all the time, like, what's the state of stand-up? And they go, oh, now everyone's got to watch out what they say. And I say, well, some people do, and then it created a whole subgroup of people who are going further with what they say.
Sure.
Because comedians are always going to push back. Sometimes it takes them a little while, but I think they've regrouped, regathered, and a certain group of stand-ups are now going further than they would have gone before. And I feel like a lot of those guys are out of New York.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't feel that in LA.
No, I think LA, everyone here has still got that desperation of just wanting to be on screen. So they would prefer to do material that probably fits within a box. The machine of Hollywood can kind of go, great, there you go, they're desperate enough and doing everything we want. Let's churn them through that machine. Whereas in New York, I think people have a real love for the craft and the art of stand-up comedy. But I don't necessarily mean that, relates to doing divisive material necessarily. But speaking very honestly, whatever that truth may be, whether you're left or right or like me, have removed yourself from the political spectrum completely.
I think you're definitely onto something, or we're onto something, which is the comics that come to L.A. don't come to L.A. to just be stand-ups. They would like to get acting gigs.
Sure, writing and directing.
Whatever, the pantheon. Mm-hmm. And the folks that stay in New York seem to go, I'm just a comic, a stand-up, and I'm going to focus on that.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get a little more purity out of those people versus the ones that come to L.A. have to kind of lick their finger and put it up, see which way the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to offend certain groups, because that could mean a job that they're not going to get in the acting world, directing, writing, and so forth.
Yeah, potentially. I think there's also an element which is, if you're in New York City, you can work 5 shows a night. Once you're past all the top clubs there, you can work 5 shows a night and get paid well for every single one of them. You can actually make a career as a stand-up comic in New York. You come to LA, you just can't do that. It just doesn't exist. You don't get booked out here based on how funny you are. You get booked based on how many tickets you'll sell or what kind of celebrity status or presence you might have in the media. So that's probably why you end up with a lot more purist comics in New York City, because they can just do that for a living and actually come home every day and feed themselves. Whereas,
what do you get paid in New York if you get passed and you're doing it every night?
It depends. During the week, I mean, anywhere between 25 to 150 a show, and if you're doing 5 of those a night, that can stack up nicely.
Sure.
And then the weekends, it's nearer the higher end, the 70 to 150 kind of a show.
So here's something interesting. Speaking of stand-up, I was doing shows in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
This is just happenstance and serendipity, but But you tell me what your take is on this. So I was working my opener, young comic, good writer. And after my set, he would go, oh, maybe tweak this, or here's a suggestion, or here's whatever. I'm always all ears.
Did you ask for that feedback, or did you just offer it? Okay.
I did not ask for it. But he gave me a line or two, and I said, oh, yeah, that's, my feeling is give me a line. If it's good, I'll use it. If it's not, and he gave me one or two, and I went...
Cheeky little tag that could work.
Yeah, that one didn't make sense. And then he gave me another one, and I said, all right, I'll try that. And I sort of closed a bit with it, and it got a huge laugh. Awesome. And I was like, thank you. So then when he came off stage on Saturday Night Late Show, I said, well, now I got a tweak or two for you. And he does this bit, and he says, I don't know if the guy's white or he's black or whatever, but he uses the name.
When you're opener, you don't know what race he is?
No, sorry. I don't see color.
Oh, wow, you're beyond that,
I'm beyond color. And I don't even know what sex he is. I don't know if he's a male. I don't know.
Don't even know if he's a man.
He could be morbidly.
You don't even know if he's an opener. You're not even doing stand-up shows. You're just sitting at home high on mescaline, just thinking you're performing.
I don't know if he was born.
Okay, fair enough.
That's how open-minded I am.
He was created in a laboratory.
In his bit, he was talking about black or white or something. And he used the name of the person he was talking about in the bit, and I won't get bogged down on it, was John.
Okay.
And then when he got off stage, I said, John doesn't sound like an either-or name. It sounds like a white guy you're talking about. Why don't you go with a name that could be white or black?
Quite biblical, because in the black community, biblical names are very prevalent. So I'm sure there's quite a few Johns out there.
There's some Johns, but I think they use Johns more when they're pimps and they're referring to guys that are with their hoes.
I mean, that is an incredibly regressive view, but yeah, let's go with that, whatever.
So I just said to him, why not use the name Marcus? Because I feel like Marcus could go black oftentimes, but could also go white. It's a white and a black name, and you're looking for a name that splits it down the middle. Right. And John, I feel, skews white.
Sure.
But Marcus, that'll be ambiguous whether you're talking about a black...
I know more black Marcuses than I know black Johns.
Yeah, and that was kind of the point of his bit.
Right.
So he said, yeah, okay, Marcus, that sounds good. And that was Saturday night. And Sunday morning, we're sitting at the airport waiting for the plane in Sacramento, drinking a beer, and a woman came up, our waitress came up to us, and she said, oh, Adam Carolla, wow, my second celebrity in a row. I had you today, and I had Marcus Allen in here the day before. And we said, Marcus Allen, the NFL football player? And she said, no, Marcus Allen, the local newscaster, white guy.
There you go.
And I said,
point proven.
We just used Marcus.
You flipped the table immediately.
Yeah, I just looked at him and went, we were just saying that Marcus is an either or name. Now, to be fair to the story, this guy went by Mark S. Johnson or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But the point is that night at midnight, we're talking about Marcus being a right down the middle black or white name. Right. And the following morning, there's a black guy and a white guy named Marcus, and we're getting them confused.
There you go.
That was point proven.
Life imitating art, I think that's described as. Yeah.
Yes. And you also kind of wonder, I'm an atheist. I'm not too cosmically oriented, but you do kind of wonder. No, I'm not anything, but you do pause.
Have you taken mushrooms?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Hero doses of psilocybin? I'm talking 5 to 7 grams.
Geez, when I did it back in the day, I don't think we even knew what we were doing.
Oh, me and you need to go and take mushrooms together. I
mixing it up with peanut butter and just getting...
And just slathering it on your dick and getting a dog to lick it off.
I remember the first time I got really high.
What that one?
The first time I got high on mushrooms, I remember a few things. I sat around and I was watching TV, and a couple things popped up. Because the thing about mushrooms, I mean, I do know. Yeah, I've taken psilocybin, but I used to take it to pie. And now, in the last year, I've taken it kind of 3 times on separate occasions, but heavy doses, like 5 to 7 grams each time, as a healing tool, as a transformative therapeutic tool.
And that's why I say, if you're not spiritual yet, I want to take you to the woods and give you 5 grams of mushroom. And I think you will literally reconnect with the one energy of all things,
Well, can we agree on this? We live in a society and we get sort of indoctrinated into society.
What is?
What's that?
What's indoctrination?
Well, I just mean there's certain things. It's like you don't leave your house nude. You put on pants or shorts or something. Sure. And you go, why do we have to do this? And you go, I don't know. That's just the way.
Yeah.
That's society. And in America, we drive on the right side of the street. And in England, we drive on the left side of the street. And you go, why? And you go, that's just
the rule of law.
That's what it is, And then you go, who are the Kardashians? And you go, well, they're women with
soulless husks,
with plump asses or soulless husks. And you go, why are they billionaires? And you go, I don't know.
Because they're soulless husks.
Right. But this is the society that we have created.
Sure.
And obviously your head would explode if you just walked around asking questions and marveling at it all the time. Like if you're a time traveler from the 1700s and someone dropped you off in the middle of Hollywood, you just walk around with your mouth hung open.
Oh, absolutely.
You wouldn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
It'd be an electric car would go by. You'd freak out. You'd look up. You'd see a plane going overhead. Everything would.
Absolutely. Everything would be mind-blowing, yeah.
Right. And so as a member of society...
But if you were from 1970, you'd look at the modern day society and go, where are the flying fucking cars?
Yes, where? I'd be pissed.
Can I swear on this, by the
yes.
way? I did, okay, apologies. I should have checked that before.
Yes, everyone swears and then checks.
Yeah.
But, better to ask for forgiveness
than
permission.
I thought you beep it out. You cut me out. Anyway.
So what mushrooms do, in my estimation, is it gets you back to a sort of newborn sort of mind where you then look around and you go, yeah, what is the deal?
Absolutely,
why are we doing this? So when I got really high for the first time on mushrooms, I was just watching TV and it was a commercial for this company called Lee Press-On Nails. And they had these bright red plastic nails that they pressed on for the women.
I'm a big fan.
And I remember looking at it and going, the women of our species need bloody red claws. And somehow that's attractive to the male of the species.
Because we think about it's the aesthetic of what those nails can do. They can drag across your skin. I think that's what it is. It's a sensory
I don't know, but it's a bizarre society that women literally had bloody red claws and somehow that attracted the males.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking about that. And then the next commercial came on was for a monster truck rally.
Right.
And it showed monster trucks smashing smaller cars.
Yeah.
And the crowd cheering.
There you go.
And
Violence,
I'm like,
gladiatorial contests.
We like giant vehicles smashing small, helpless vehicles, and we cheer.
Yeah.
We cheer for this. And I remember going, what is this society we've crafted? And but now, when you're not high...
You've made the perfect linchpin point there. That we've crafted. I disagree.
Yes.
We haven't crafted it. It's been crafted for us. We've been pushed into believing that these are the things that stimulate us.
Well, but then who is us or who is they?
Oh, I mean, corporate entities that own the entire world. Yeah, the Rothschilds and the Vanguards and the BlackRocks of the world. The puppetry of theater that we consider to be politics of most countries.
I'm generally with you.
Yeah,
and certainly.
Oh, I did my research. I saw that you're a kind of assign yourself a sort of a roughly libertarian kind of standpoint. That's what it's.
Well, after COVID, everything's on the table for me in terms of big corporate, big pharma, big government. It's all to me. COVID was the big government, big pharma, and big corp were like pulling up their skirt and giving me a look like, oh, now I see what's going on in legacy
news. And with
news
the internet, the mask is off in so many different areas now.
Yes, I'm with you, but I also generally subscribe to if people don't really want it, it's hard to foist it on them.
I just don't think so anymore. I think we spend so much time glued to our cell phones, glued to computer screens, glued to our iPads that we are just being force-fed. It's very... When I was a child, I'm only 39, but I'm still, old enough to remember a time pre-pages even.
Right.
And cell phones and things like that. The way that I lived my life that was set out for me was very simplistic.
Yes.
And within the space of 5 to 10 years, that completely changed.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's pretty easy to condition humans. I mean, we're
trainable.
If they're
We're very,
uneducated, you know.
Well, we're fear based, so
Sure.
we go with the fear, and then we coach them up, and then we train them. And I get that. All I'm saying is I'm older than you, and I remember when they tried to launch New Coke, and everyone just went, Bill Cosby's talking about it back when we liked him,
Right.
And they tried to shove New
Back
Coke.
when he wasn't slipping Quaaludes inside the cans.
Yeah, well, actually, back when he was doing it, we didn't know.
We just didn't know about it. We didn't see the fizz.
He was probably in the salad days of dropping Quaaludes in cans, but we had no idea because we were naive. And he may have put the shit in Jell-O too, and Jell-O pudding pops,
Sure
whatever.
Puts the Quaalude and pops. I'm sure he put them everywhere.
Everything he sold was a mule for Quaaludes.
Yeah,
if you think about it,
absolutely,
you know, he didn't sell cars.
No,
he
mostly
sold
food and
stuff
drink.
you ingest.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
So but New Coke didn't work.
Right.
We were like, we rejected it as hard as they tried. We went, no, we reject New Coke.
Right.
So I'm saying Madison Avenue and big corporations and stuff, they do make a push every once in a while, but if we don't want it, we still will reject it. So and maybe that was 30 years ago when we had free will.
Human society as a whole wants this kind of division. We want this. We want to hate our neighbors for all the small discrepancies of difference in our aesthetics, our race, our gender, our sexuality, whatever the fuck. You know, you've got to hate everyone for all these different reasons.
I think my general approach is we need to have a certain... There's a part of our reptilian brain needs to...
Whoa. Are you revealing that you are, in fact, a reptile? Is this what...
I have a reptilian brain.
It's been confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. He's part of the Illuminati.
And part of us needs to be scared and needs to feel like we're being persecuted and needs to fight or flight. You know, that's a strong thing.
Sure.
And we essentially got rid of all the real dangers and obstacles. You know, no more saber-toothed tigers and things of that nature.
Yes.
So now we sit around and we get equally as animated about nothing.
Or agitated
about nothing burgers.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's the new world order. We've gotten everyone out of the fields, off the farms, into air conditioning, and we still have this fight or flight thing. And so we become super animated about Israel or Hamas, or, you know, we get very,
Understood.
or you know, a race related something involving a policeman or whatever. We get super animated. And I just go, what do you care so much about this? Like, who cares? You know,
well, it depends on the subjective standpoint. I mean, like, there's some of those things you mentioned. Of course, if you're like directly related to, I can see how those things would mean a lot to you.
Well,
but I agree with you that we no longer have a need to just survive on a daily basis. So now we're looking for areas to excuse our behaviors, to go, well, this is why I have to fight against all these things because You remember
the coach, I keep calling him the coach, but he was sort of the manager, the architect for the women's soccer team from Spain, and he kissed the woman on the lips, and everyone was animated. You know what I mean? It had an opinion. And I kept saying...
You should have seen what happened in the changing room afterwards. That was even worse.
I said, who cares? Who cares? It was nothing. They were celebrating. Who cares? It has nothing to do with you. They won the world championship. Let them celebrate. These guys celebrate the way they celebrate.
Now, I don't know what her response to it was. What was her response? Was she upset about it? Did she find it unpleasant and uncomfortable?
She was not upset about it for a period of time until the mob got to her and told her she had to be upset about it. And this is my point. Who is this mob? Why does she need to be upset?
Sure.
It lasted, the whole incident...
I've been to Spain, a lot of kissing.
...was 1 second long.
Yeah.
It was a 1 second kiss in a celebration.
So you're saying if I took 1 second and kissed you gently on the tip of your penis, you would have no issue with it because it would be... just a moment in time.
It's just a moment sharing. Moment in time.
We took 5 grams of mushrooms. We're in the woods.
Oh, now I was going to go to the woods with you. Now I'm getting where
I'm
this
not even a
woods thing
homosexual.
is
I
going.
say it in my special. I'm just a European. It's different.
Well, you were a male prostitute for a while, were you not?
What? No, I did a documentary, an immersive documentary about male prostitution, where I had one client, who turned out to be a stripper who wanted the role reversal. She was a fan of my other TV shows.
Oh, it was a female.
Yes, it was a female.
Well,
yeah.
look, here's honestly the problem with the prostitute.
I didn't go full send with it. I really should have,
This
fucked
is
the dudes.
judgment-free zone here.
Yeah.
You do what you want. You
Thanks,
kiss
man.
all the dick tips you want.
Just the tip, though, Adam.
Just
never
the
the
tip.
shaft. Ugh, disgusting.
So, no, what I'm saying is when someone says there's a female prostitute,
Right.
you go, I get it, she's with men.
Sure.
When they say a male prostitute, you go,
You assume probably with men or women, yeah.
80% men with a 20% woman
It's
thing in my head.
mostly male to male. That's what we've discovered in the documentary. Yeah,
So when you want male prostitute, you ended up with a woman.
I did. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I explore my sexuality. I've always been heterosexual, but I had the at least honesty to go, could I be into dudes? And it's just not for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Not for me.
what is
either.
it that turns you off about men? What is it that makes you go, I just don't want to kiss him?
Well, let's break this down.
You've seen Matt Rife. Tell me you haven't wanted to just kiss those gentle little chin dimples of his.
I just want to open for you, bro. Whatever I have to do.
Well, not anymore. He's being cancelled as well, isn't he? So
I guess. I don't know. But here's the good news. If everyone's being canceled, then no one's being canceled. And if everyone's a racist, then no one's a racist.
we've all been cancelled, haven't we, now?
I guess.
Yeah.
Here's what I say. Here's my argument
Right.
for homosexuality.
Oh, okay.
And it's very unpopular.
And this is the argument for homosexuality.
Well, it's the argument for male wiring.
Okay.
And I've discussed this for over 25 years because I used to do a show called Loveline, and we'd get into such subjects. I said this very simply. If you show heterosexual males graphic imagery of gay porn, they put their hand up in front of their face.
I don't. I put it immediately to my penis.
You go down to the penis.
Straight to the penis.
You don't, hold on, is your cock in front of your face?
It's that big, yeah. Or I'm just laying on my back with it at a point.
Guys reflexively, if I invited 10 guys over to watch the big game
Yeah.
and was scrolling around the TV and somehow just popped on
no,
graphic gay porn.
The last YouTube video I was watching just came on.
Yes,
no, look at
that's
this.
right.
Oh,
We're into my
whoops.
browser. There would be an audible groan from all 10 guys, and then all 10 guys who love pornography.
Sure.
Who probably watched pornography earlier that day.
Absolutely.
Would put their hand in front of their face and go, oh, come on, change it.
Because those men are not comfortable in their true sexuality.
I think it's a hard wiring.
Really?
I think
think they're just pussies. Because here's the reality: like, you can be straight, and if I walked into a room and two dudes were fucking, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'd just be like, oh, sorry, lad.
Sorry,
crack
Dad.
on." Sorry, Dad. Sorry, Uncle. No, I'd just be like, this is just all right. Crack on, boys. I've been at orgies where, I've been having sexual relations with women, and other men are there, but I'm not fucking the dudes or kissing the dudes or touching the dudes. But like seeing a dude fuck a chick at the other end or fuck another dude in the room, I don't care. Like, it's not affecting me because I know what I am comfortable with.
Well, then you're either evolved or bi.
I'm involved, yeah, I guess.
Okay, or
sexually,
bi.
because I questioned it. No, I'm not bi, because to be bisexual, you have to be sexually stimulated by it. I'm not stimulated by it, but I don't have to go, like it's going to in some way affect my sexuality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but let me break it down a little further
Okay.
because I'm trying to get away from this sort of socialization part and more into the hard wiring part.
Okay, yeah.
When somebody says to me, oh, there was this MMA fight and this guy fractured his tibia, I go, I don't want to see it.
Right.
I just don't want it. Or if a guy, he got punched and it knocked his tooth out, I go,
You
I
don't like seeing acts of
I
violence.
just
that's
don't want to see certain graphic things. Like my hand would go up if somebody's getting a compound fracture of their femur. And the same hand goes up with gay sex.
Because you're seeing a compound fracture of a penis.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
understood.
It is not because I'm anti-homosexual. It's not because I'm against the MMA.
Sure.
It's just MMA. I don't want to see it. And
sure.
most guys, with the exception of you,
Yeah.
who are super evolved or possibly bi,
Hey, man, I'll take that fan base if you're watching. Sure.
you're not wired that way. But every other male I know will put the hand up, and it's not because they don't condone it. It's not because they're gay bashers. It's not because they have anything against it. I know, I'm in LA. I've done improv troupes. You can't not have gay friends You can't work in L.A. in media, TV, and theater and stuff, and not have a lot of gay people. Yeah, I worked construction. I didn't have any gay friends, but as soon as I got,
or you didn't know you did.
That's a good point.
They're probably just too regressive, or maybe they were too scared to actually acknowledge their own sexuality. Some of those.
I did see Mike, the drywaller, checking me out a few times.
You look good in those, overalls.
Yeah. Well, look, the gay theme is I was a village person. Had the tool bag cinched up, the sleeves cut off the shirt. You
were the only village
the
person, apart from the police officer, with a full-time job, I think.
Yeah. See, the Indian, not a job.
That's cultural, that's native,
I think one guy was like a lineman for the county. I think one guy worked for like the phone company or something.
Right. And he drove the main line.
Maybe I'm confusing the construction worker. Yeah, there was the biker guy didn't have a job.
This many members of what the dress code was for the group. It suggests to me that you might have. Well, you might. Maybe you're a little bi as well. There we go. Oh, here we go.
It's funny. The only guy with the only straight guy in the Village People was the cop.
Oh, really? The black gentleman in the back?
The lead guy, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the other guy was a cowboy, the Indian. The one guy just dressed like a biker.
I like how the one at the bottom left with a little electrical thing on his helmet, he looks like Ian Fidance, the comedian Ian Fidance. It's spot on. That's where he stole his look from, doesn't he? That's where he stole it from. Unbelievable. We got Ben Stiller over on the right-hand side in the leather cap.
Yeah. He does look like Ben
Jamie
Stiller.
Foxx top right there.
Oh, yeah.
And top left, that's me, I think, with the moustache. That's basically me. I'm the cowboy, yeah.
All right. So now that we've assigned a comedian to all of the Village People.
Yeah.
Back to homosexuality.
Yes, you think it's hardwiring.
I want to get back to the orgy. Yeah, it's hardwiring because even the most... you know what? I talked to Dr. Drew about this once. Okay. And he took a functional MRI.
And what does that mean? What's a functional MRI?
I don't know. They study your brain.
Okay.
And then they show you a picture of a kitten, and they see something lights up. And then
they see where the synapses fire, depending on what
they show you a picture of pumpkin pie and another thing. And then they show you graphic gay porn, and your brain starts going, oh, no.
Okay.
So there's some science to it. But let's get back to the orgy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I used to be quite sexually promiscuous, I think. And
how many orgies did you attend?
I used to go to Romania every year. So actually, the ones that I used to have were in Romania. My mum's Romanian, so I would go out there to do events for some friends and hosting this big tech conference. And I had some friends there who were swingers. So they would always invite a group of girls. And, there might occasionally be like one or two dudes who were with one of the girls or just friends. And by the end of the night, normally about 5, 6, 7 people would be left. A few drinks, chilling out, whatever. And then clothing would start coming off. People would start fucking each other. It was great. So sexual liberation in a country where they had a dictatorship, So I think there's a lot of that. When you go to a country where they've escaped the clutches of quite a serious dictatorship, sexual freedom and liberation becomes a big part of the culture.
Or acting out, depending on how you describe it. But,
sure, yeah.
Yeah. So then what are the women like at these orgies? Like what?
I mean, the ones I went to, incredibly good, but this is also Eastern European women, who all have great jobs, are all very bright and intelligent, very well educated. So the quality of the women that I was spending time with were incredible people.
I was thinking more in the looks department.
No, very, very beautiful and very bright and very interesting and charming.
And then what's etiquette? What's orgy etiquette? Like you see one and you're more attracted to her.
Right.
But now she's blowing some other dude over here.
So you just patiently wait your turn, Adam.
You just wait? Yeah. Is that how it works?
Yeah, you have to be British and have the accent and a little bit of charm and swagger about you. And then after a period of time, she might come and have a chat with you. And then you might go off to another bedroom or you might join in and go, oh, do you mind if I come and get involved? I think women who might be at an orgy, just like men who are at an orgy, probably are there for the experience of being with multiple bodies. Do you know what I mean? So, so I don't think you don't walk up and just pull your dick out and throw it in someone. That's obviously not the done thing in any sort of walk of life. But you have a conversation and see if they're into it.
So, and then at the orgy. What happens after you climax? Do you just sort of hand out towels? Do you hang out and clean up?
You have a little wash. You have a little drink and you chill, and then you wait until you get aroused again, and then you have some more sex.
Oh, you can go 2 times, huh?
Oh, I mean, at those sessions, it would be more than that. These days, I'm not going to pretend like I'm some prolific lover having sex 5 times a night, but at the, group sex situation.
In your prime.
Absolutely, yeah.
3 times?
Oh, more than that, yeah. But I mean, it's over the course of a whole evening. You might be there for 12 hours hanging out. So,
wow.
And you're not always fucking. Sometimes you put some music on. You're all just chatting for a while. You have beautiful women smoking cigarettes, especially in Romania. They all smoke. That's the only thing I hate about it. And then, you have a drink, you have a chat, maybe you have a joint on the balcony. Hey, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And then, hey, you want to go to a bit? Oh, cool, yeah.
Could you work any mushrooms into the orgy?
I wouldn't. I will never do. So I gave up drinking 4.5 years ago because I'm an alcoholic. So I gave up booze. I gave up all the Class A's around the same time, coke and ketamine and all that stuff. And then the only vice I had was marijuana, but I've given that up now as well because I just don't think we take it in the right way. It doesn't bring health to me. Mm-hmm. So for me, I don't want to use any kind of substance to party with or to enhance a party. If I'm going to take something, for instance, psilocybin or ketamine, they actually do therapeutic ketamine treatments, which I'm going to do with some veterans I just met, actually. It can be very healing. So that's the only way that I would do drugs ever again is in that kind of healing, therapeutic manner. And
the orgy. Does anyone ever sort of lose their nerve and kind of bow out? Like the ladies kind of
at the beginning of the night, it would just be a social hang, with the understanding that later on in the night, this might get a bit sexual. And people would just go. Or, there was occasions where I was sitting talking to a couple of girls at the table and my friend and his partner and a couple of other people were having sex on the couch and, doing their thing. And one of the girls said, this is not really for me. And I was like, all right, I understood. And she was like, all right, I'm going to go home. So she just,
Do you ever try to cherry pick? Like you find a hottie during the early evening and you go, you know what, we should blow this taco stand and go back to my hotel?
See, this is the thing. I think the most healthy sort of group sex situations are the ones where you're not worried about the fucking. The fucking is inevitability. So what you really do is you spend time getting to know the people who were there and you have conversations. And that's not based just on looks. I mean, if I'm stimulated by someone but they're not what I would aesthetically think is my top choice, if I've talked to them and they're inspiring, they're interesting, they're fun, they're flirty, and I'm enjoying their company, then I can be very sexually stimulated by them.
Wow, you've really evolved.
Yeah, but I'm not having sex with people I find unattractive.
Yeah.
I'm not pretending like I can generate such a personal relationship with someone that I can overlook the fact that I'm not sexually stimulated by them. That doesn't work.
Yeah, but you're able to factor in the emotional or artistic.
Look, I walked in here today, Adam,
side.
And I saw you, and I was like, he's a solid 7, right? But now we've been talking for a little while. You're an 8.5 in my book.
Yes.
And by the end of this podcast, who knows? We could be at a 10.
Yeah.
We could be on this table on all fours.
Well, I'll be at a 9, you be at a 6, and we'll do the math.
There we go.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We got some news and some liked tweets, and we'll do all that. The very interesting Jeff Leach right after this. Let me tell you about Angie Homeowners. It's a lot of work to own a home. Whether it's everyday maintenance, repairs, or dream projects, it can be hard to even know where to start. All you need is Angie, your home for everything home. Find a skilled local pro who will deliver quality and experience. Over 20 years of home service experience. Bring them your project online or with the Angie app. Answer a few questions and Angie handles the rest. Look, you're busy. You don't have time to do all this stuff. Let Angie handle it. Take care of just about any home project in just a few taps. Download the free Angie mobile app today. Or visit online. Visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com. ANGI.com. That's Angie. Let them do all the heavy lifting. All right, back with the fascinating and worldly Jeff Leach. Website, jeffreyleach.com is where you can go. Find out all the dates.
I'm going to put that on my next poster. Fascinating and worldly.
Sorry, I'm fighting a cold, but yes.
Yeah, I won't put the bit about you hooking up phlegm while you said it.
Yeah, sorry. But and the stand-up special, Jeff Leach, a comedy spectacular, available now on YouTube. Chris is remote. He's
hey guys.
Not feeling well today, but he's got some news stories and some tweets, and we can get into that with Jeff, and Jeff, react however you like.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, Jeff. Good. So I I just want to talk about this tweet that you were tweeted earlier, Adam, about because you presented your paintball solution for all like the flash mob theft.
Yes.
And Jeff, to just refresh you, Adam says that if like the security guards or people just had paintball guns, and like so all the unruly people on airplanes fighting, the people at drive-through windows abusing the workers, and the people who are stealing from CVS and Home Depot and
you think
and
just pelt them with paintballs?
Yeah.
Why don't you go to the next level and get the little bags, those little bags that the police use? Because that's less cleanup, right?
We can put pepper in the paintballs if we want. You know,
you just want to make a mess, Adam.
I'm going to start with paintballs.
Okay,
and they're already making a mess because they're tearing everything off the shelves,
Fair
and
enough.
knocking over racks and everything else. I'm just saying.
So a little bit of silk paint is not going to make
the
a mess.
sound of the paintball is enough to make everyone scatter. Like we've had all of these. All right, let's look at it this way.
Right.
We in America, we've had all these crazy mob school beatings. Two people died. 2 teenage boys died. One was beaten to death recently. Another one was stabbed to death. And all the teachers can do when these mobs of 16 and 17-year-old boys are just in a full feeding frenzy and beating on someone is to sort of approach from the outside and yell, "Stop it!
Break it up!"
But they're in frenzy mode.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And they're punching and kicking someone on the ground. If those teachers had a paintball gun, just pop, 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 hit 3 guys in the back, as soon as the mob heard the sound of the paint gun, they would scatter.
I feel you.
And all it would do is ruin a couple of sweatshirts and leave a welt or 2 on the ass of an unruly 16-year-old.
Well, I definitely think it's better than having a cop in the school either pulling out a gun or beating up a child.
Well, the cop now has. The cops are in the same position. Either you pull out a gun and fire it, which you don't want to do, or you yell at the crowd, break it up, but they don't listen to the cops anymore. The paint gun would work. That's all.
So instead of giving teachers guns, you just want to give them paintball guns?
I'll give them paintball guns.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, now what if the kids get really good at that? It could actually have a double benefit because effectively it could be like an athletics training for the children as well.
Yeah.
Stimulate a little bit more health and...
Yeah, they'd start running. They'd burn some calories.
They'd burn a few calories.
Yeah, this is a video of some guys stealing someone's catalytic converter, which is what we do out here because we've descended into hell. And a guy comes running out with a paintball gun. And they're under the car trying to get at the catalytic converter.
I got to see this.
Yeah, huge problem in California. This is in Turlock. Some swearing.
They just get up and run because there's nothing else to do. When someone's got a paintball gun, you got to run.
It also it does sound like those first few shots does sound like a real firearm, doesn't it, as well?
It would work. It would work at the Home Depot. It would work at the school. It would work at the Macy's. It would work in your neighborhood.
See, if I was that guy, I would have waited and gone around the other side of the car and then shot at them because there's nothing like taking a paintball to the arsehole.
Yes.
Really push you in the right direction in life, you know?
Yes, the blue dye and the brown eye, as we say in the paintball
That's what you
business.
say.
That's what we say.
Amazing.
Yeah, paintball. Everyone thinks I'm nuts. It would work. If the big crowds were like gathering and ripping off everything and pop, 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 they just disperse.
Look,
That's
if
all.
we can't get to the systemic root of why that problem is happening, then I think it's the best non-lethal option available.
Well, the systemic root is we're letting it happen. It's not that people are poor, because people have always been poor.
Right.
It turns out that it's a small group of people that are much more organized than we think.
Right.
I think there was some story out of New York where it was like $4.4 billion worth of retail done by like 200 people.
Right,
it's the same people.
You mean the smash and grabs in
they figured the system out. It's not just sort of random...
Sure.
Random theft. It's the group has gone, oh, this will work. We figured this out.
I get that.
We'll do it.
Well, it's criminality, but it's also criminality to like generate some revenue, isn't it? Because people are just going, I got nothing, so I'm just going to go and take it from these big corporations that don't really give a shit about anyone anyway.
Yeah, but who cares if they give a shit about anybody?
Yeah. Well, oh man,
it's not their job to give a shit.
Maybe I'm a little. You're right. I might be a little too, maybe I'm a little socialist in my outlook because coming from the UK, so there is a part of me that hates the, I don't think a small number of people should be as wealthy as they are while everyone else is kind of,
Yeah, but here's the problem. It's not really avoidable given the system.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, I don't really look at it as a finite amount of money. There can be ultra rich. They're always going to be ultra rich, and then you can go out and get money too. It's not because they have hoarded all the money, I guess is what I'm saying. And there's a certain amount of it that's baked into the system, but it's like McDonald's. You go McDonald's. They don't pay their workers a living wage. And then you go, all right, but you don't have to work at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's for a summer when I was 16, and I was like, this fucking place sucks.
But if there's not any other jobs out there, then you've got to go and work at McDonald's. You've got to take whatever's available to you, surely.
Yeah, but there are other jobs available. When I did it, there weren't other jobs available.
I just want these fuckers to pay their taxes, Adam. That's the only thing I really want. I don't care. Yeah, be a big corporation. Be as wealthy as you like. That's absolutely fine. But just pay the correct amount of tax so that when I pay my tax every year on what I earn and that I hustle for, it actually gets spent on the things that it should be spent on, like, some education, maybe even some fucking healthcare. That'd be nice, things like that.
Well, first, the government's going to waste whatever you give them. That's number one.
Sure.
I don't trust them to go, well, if they only had a little more money, then we could have a healthcare system. They're going to squander it. So they're partners.
But I'd rather they were spending McDonald's money than spending my money and your money and his money and his money.
McDonald's corporations are going to do whatever you let them do in terms of tax code.
Absolutely.
And
loopholes.
And we look at them as being, immoral for doing it or something, but you'd be a fool not to. And then they have their shareholders to answer to. So whatever it is we
still pull up to the drive-thru. Well, I don't. You probably don't, but we pull up. A lot of people pull up to those drive-thrus and buy that.
Whatever you legally let them do, they will exploit it to the full extent.
Absolutely.
And every company's going to do that, no matter what it is they say, whatever they preach. If there's a loophole, they will find it. And so, if you'd like to shut the loopholes or go with a flat tax or do something, I'm all for it.
Sure.
But right now, the corporations are just doing what
they can get away with.
What they can get away with. Yeah. Right. All right. What else you got there, Chris?
Well, speaking of non-lethal guns, there's a story out today. They're in Compton. A bunch of teachers and the principal all called out sick, along with me. But the reason they're calling out sick is because there's a boy at their school who's just so troublesome. I guess he pointed a BB gun at another kid's head. They've had all these different problems with him. So the kid comes back with his mom, and the mom and the principal get into an argument, and the principal just goes, I'm done. I'm over it. Principal calls out sick. All the teachers call out sick just because of this one kid.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we're
They want him out.
Oh, that's in Compton.
They should send that kid out to the Middle East. Get him to sign up for Hamas.
Yes, take your BB gun.
That's how you end terrorist cells. You know what I mean? Get him to go out to the the Israeli government as well. He can root them all out. Perfect.
We're getting to the point where the system is kind of breaking down, especially in Compton and our schools. And at some point, the parents are going to have to start doing some parenting. There's basically two positions. When I was a kid, if you got into trouble at school, your parents would be pissed at you.
When you were a kid, how many kids were in your class?
5. Well, we did look at my records once, Chris, right? Wasn't there like 571 in my graduating class? That was my...
I could find that out.
It was 570 because I know I was about 500 out of 570. I think it was like 571.
And you went actually near here, North Hollywood, right? You went to high school, yeah.
Yeah, I did. So there was like 500 and 600 in every class or whatever. So there was like 2,000 kids at my school. It was like a pretty big school.
Yeah.
It's amazing we sucked at sports so badly. 2,000 kids to choose from. But, I went to a pretty big school. But in the past, if you got in trouble at school, then you got in trouble at home.
Sure.
So there's been a change. The change is the parents used to get pissed at the kid and want to know what went on, even on a sort of macro level. Like if you got hit by another friend's parent or disciplined by another and sent home or something, your parents would be pissed at you. What did you do to piss off Mr. Jenkins? Well, I ate some of his Nilla wafers. Well, what were you doing in his cupboard without asking him? Now the parents go to the school and yell at the principal.
Right, yeah.
And then the parents go to Mr. Jenkins' house and yell at him for disciplining their kids.
Yeah.
That's
with
the
a paintball
change.
gun.
Oh, that would work. Yes, this is the problem we're at now.
I mean, God, yeah. You're trying. I feel a little bit like we're trying to condense and oversimplify such a big,
that's what I do.
Expansive problem.
I oversimplify.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I feel like yes, I do think parents need to parent more.
Yes.
I agree with that across the board,
Yes.
Be more involved in their kids' lives. That's why you got kids, online playing video games and, getting groomed by pedophiles because their parents don't care to listen and take an interest in what their kids are interested in and learn about what it is and actually keep a bit of a check on it. But again, we have a generation of very young parents that's been happening now for the last sort of 20 years. People who don't really necessarily think they have any option for their own personal lives. So they're like, I'll create a kid. That's how I'm gonna do something in this world. And a lot of those people probably shouldn't be parents in the first place. I know my parents probably shouldn't have been parents. I don't think.
You don't think so?
No.
Why?
Oh, I don't think they should have been together. I don't think they were right for each other, and caused a lot of frustrations for themselves and also for us, as there was a knock-on effect. But I was educated, and if I got bad grades, I was told off. And if I was out of check, I got a little clip around the ear. That was another thing that used to happen. Different age, though. It's a different age,
But you don't think your parents should have been parents?
Oh, they should have been, but they should have married different people and had kids with someone that they were happy with rather than together.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they did, because if they hadn't fucked, then I wouldn't be sitting here right now getting you to a 9.5.
Working my way up.
There you go.
All right. Now, don't get me past the 10 because I'm not going to believe you.
If you go past the 10, we end the podcast. We just start having sex. That's how it goes.
In the woods, though.
In the
Let's
woods,
drop some
man.
shrooms
In the
and
woods.
hit
Yeah,
the
we're going to
woods.
shoot some guns. We can have fun. It would be great.
All right, just a tip. What else you got, Chris?
All right, so I saw you like this tweet, Adam, and this is Oakland City Council. So on Monday, they passed a carefully crafted resolution calling for a ceasefire.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the Israel-Hamas war after hours of hearing impassioned rhetoric about the deaths of thousands of civilians in Gaza. So a city council member tried to insert language condemning Hamas, and we have a video about a minute long of some of the reaction from the
So
city council.
somebody tried to condemn Hamas in this legislation, and the ladies got upset.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's not been beheadings of babies and rapings. Israel murdered their own people on October 7th.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization
Well,
is
I don't know if that's true.
racist and plays into genocidal propaganda that is flooding our media and that we should be doing everything possible to combat.
I support the right of Palestinians to resist occupation, including through Hamas, the armed wing of the unified Palestinian resistance.
As an Arab, asking with this context to condemn Hamas is very anti-Arab racist.
Oh,
The
God,
notion
I
that
bet
this
she's
is a
fun.
massacre of Jews
Yeah.
is a fabricated narrative.
Find her in the
Many of
orgy.
those killed on October
Thank you,
7th,
ma'am. Your time is up.
including children, were killed by the IDF. An amendment condemning Hamas is bald propaganda meant to...
Thank you. Your time is up.
To hear them complain about Hamas violence is like listening to a wife beater complain when his wife finally stands up and fights back.
Question. Did anyone else notice that those who oppose this resolution are old white supremacists?
There's been a lot of atrocity
All right, we get
propaganda
it.
raging.
All right, people gone insane. It's weird. We're living in a weird time.
It must have been a sale on those scarves. Everyone had one. That was amazing. I mean, it's such a hot topic. It's very difficult to have any opinion on this without
I got opinions.
being destroyed by anyone. But man, I'm just for people. I just want to see some humanity.
Yeah.
So Hamas are absolutely a terrorist organization, but the people of Palestine are also being slaughtered in thousands.
They
and that's
support
wrong.
Hamas.
There's a bunch of,
But they support Hamas.
Not all of them do.
No,
in the
not
same
all
way,
of
in the
them.
same
Too
way
many.
that in the same way that a large portion of Israeli people do not support the Israeli government. They don't
It's
support.
true, but the
Netanyahu.
Israeli
So-
government aren't terrorists. I go down to a 7 again.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but at the same point, I'm not like, I just don't think, God, Jesus Christ, you're trying to get me cancelled again, Adam.
Listen, being canceled for not supporting terrorists is fine.
I don't support terrorists, and I also don't support the bombing of civilians. That's what I don't support.
But they put
either
the
or.
civilians underneath the terrorists. So what are you going to do?
Do you think all those people are in support of Hamas? You think all those 4,000 kids are in support of Hamas?
No, not all.
Just some of them. Some of them.
A number that is too high that enables them to exist.
But and I guess the situational reason for that is when you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, you take any option that you got out, even if it is an extremist, lunatic way out. In the same way that I think there's extremist beliefs within Israel, there's extremist beliefs within Palestine, and unfortunately, extremism
they don't
leads to
have
death
to
on both
not
sides.
flourish. They don't have to not flourish. They can flourish. They're
What, Palestinian people?
Yes, they're not flourishing because of Hamas and because of Jew hatred.
Right.
I mean, listen. I don't know if it's popular. I don't know if it's unpopular, but that's the truth.
This is a subject matter that I personally do feel really responsible to not oversimplify, because first of all, I'm not a politician. I haven't done years of research looking into the history of these two countries, these two places, these two groups of people. I don't know enough about the policies of either of the two governance of those places. So for me to comment on it, I'm a fucking comedian. I make dick jokes and I talk about how I'm going to have sex with you at the end of the podcast. Do you know what I mean? And that's why
Israel,
about so
I'll
many
oversimplify it. Israel would like to live in peace. Their neighbors do not.
I think Israelis would like to live in peace. I don't think the Israeli government has any desire to live in peace.
Well, there's that argument.
I think there's a lot of Palestinians who would like to live in peace, and I do not think Hamas wants to live in peace.
No, they don't want to live in peace.
And taking hostages on October 7th.
There's a lot of Palestinians who want to live in peace, but not enough to get rid of Hamas.
Oh, I don't know. I disagree. I think most of the people in both those countries probably would rather be living in peace. I don't think any of them would rather be worrying about whether they're
tons of footage of civilians like cheering on Hamas when they're coming back.
Yeah, but there's so much misinformation on both sides at this point. I mean, it's difficult to even pick out what is real, what is not, what is.
Well, Hamas lies. Hamas lies. That's all they do.
But they both lie. Yeah, both groups.
Israel
lie.
does not nearly do what Hamas does. It's like, look, here's what they say. Here's how it works. They go, we just had a prisoner exchange, right? And they go, women and children on both sides were exchanged, right?
Sure.
Okay, that's a correct statement, but here's the part they're missing. Hamas has children. 4-year-olds, 2-year-olds, newborns, 6-year-olds, women, civilians.
Israelis
has
women who have been convicted
who
of
tried to blow up
crimes
car bombs,
Understood.
and 17-year-old boys who tried to stab people in a pizza parlor. That's not women and children being exchanged. That's terrorists
100%.
and women and children being
100%,
exchanged.
yeah,
That's how the news rolls. All right, I've done work my way down to a 6.
You're not down to a 6. I don't think we're like necessarily in a difference of understanding on this thing. I just think, this is why I'm sick and tired of fucking celebrities getting involved in this. Because if you really care about that much, get on a fucking plane and go out and fight for the side you think you really
pick up a paintball gun and go out there and take care of business.
Yeah, go and shoot a few paintballs at either Hamas or the IDF. Do what you need to do. But honestly, whinging about it on the internet or whinging about it on podcasts,
I agree.
None of us are educated enough to understand it, and none of us are living it. Not one of us is living it. What I want to see is innocent people stop being murdered on both sides. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I agree. But Hamas can't hide behind innocent people. That's the problem. All right, what's next?
Well, before we leave this topic, I just want to, if we're talking about celebrities, Miranda, Cynthia Nixon from Sex and the City, she has now begun a hunger strike outside the White House.
She already looks pretty hungry, which is
Joe Biden.
Well, now she's thirsty and hungry because she
should have hit a couple of all-you-can-eat buffets before she started that, boy, because she is.
She needed to swing by the Golden Corral and carb load before she started.
She's on a hunger strike to do what?
So the 5-day fast was launched to coincide with what had been scheduled the end of a 4-day truce in Israel's military offensive. But yeah, so she's just...
Hang on a sec. A 5-day fast is not a hunger strike.
That's a juice cleanse.
That's me back when I was a struggling, actor and comic, just getting to the end of the month and not being able to eat for 5 days.
Yeah, you got an audition for Aquaman 3, and you're going on a 5-day cleanse.
I got to get those abs popping for Sex and the City 5. So, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a
5-day fast.
pretty weak hunger strike. All right, well, let's move over to Mark Cuban. So Mark Cuban... in the news now because for a couple of reasons. First off, he announced that he's leaving Shark Tank after 15 seasons, I think 16 seasons. And now he's
I'm glad they're finally releasing him back into the wild.
That's right.
I know.
He's lived in that tank in captivity, hand-fed, hand-fed minnows by his trainer.
In Orlando, Florida, probably.
That's
Isn't
right.
that the
And
joint
now, and his fin was toppled over.
God.
He had
Yeah.
a droopy fin,
Dorsal.
and now he's being let go back into the open sea. Good.
It's good. It's let him be free. But the so he's set to also sell a controlling share of the Mavericks,
I saw
majority
that.
stake.
3.5 bill or something, right? It's worth
Yeah,
now.
to the casino billionaire Miriam Adelson. So he bought the Mavericks in 2000 for $285 million, and it's reports are saying it's going to be a $3.5 billion deal.
And that's for 55% or something like that. I mean, say controlling interest. That's not the whole price for the whole team. That's just a percentage
that's
of
majority
it.
stake. But it's also going to be structured in an incredibly unusual way because he's going to retain some shares of the team. But even though he's not the majority owner, he will retain full control over basketball operations. So he'll still be very heavily involved. So a lot of people saying this is suspicious. This is suspect that he's leaving Shark Tank. He's selling a majority stake of his basketball team. People are thinking, is it because he's going to run for president? And he's trying to
No, it's
offload
because
some stuff.
all these really wealthy people understand that the end times are coming and that society is going to eat itself alive within the next probably 20 years. So they're all just selling up. That's why Bill Gates sold his stuff and now he's bought all the seeds in the world. Do you know what I mean? These people are like literally just going, I need a controlling stake as much as I can over Earth, and they're going to go and build their little spaceships and they're going to go and get off planet.
Now you're talking because I've had a theory for a number of years. Why are all the richest guys on the planet trying to go to space?
Oh, yeah.
They're all working on getting out of here.
Around. We've been wiped out on, now they've found a third advanced human civilization from 13,000 years ago, monolithic structures in Turkey and Malta that actually show this predates the Sumerians 6,000 years ago that we know and we have evidence of, or major archaeologists have. It's all suppressed by the Smithsonians and the CIA. But there was another, we've been wiped out 3 times. The human race has been wiped out 3 times, which is very likely, if you look at any of the major, you can look at it from a scientific side, archaeologically, historically, or you can look at it from a theological side, even all those texts.
Well,
we get wiped out by a great flood, and that's probably because we go through an asteroid field every few thousand years, and it slams into the earth, causes great floods, and we get wiped off.
When we get high and go to the woods, is this going to be part of the conversation? Because I'm going to freak the fuck out.
No, when we get high and take mushrooms in the woods, you're not going to be out tripping. You're going to trip for a little while and look at nature, and then you're going to go and lay down and close your eyes, and you're going to trip inside of yourself, man. That's how you connect. That's how you leave your body.
Okay.
It's a whole different experience. But for real, I think these rich people know. They know. They're not idiots. They know more than we know. They have access.
let me float this trial balloon out. See what you think.
Sure.
We're all, as human beings, basically narcissists. I mean, no fault of our own, but we worry about ourselves, and we take care of others in our sphere and things like that. But we think in terms of, how does this affect me?
Right.
And in the past, one of the biggest sort of narcissistic thoughts is this is going to end on my watch. And we're not the first to have this thought.
Absolutely. You're correct.
And so in the past, it was all religious people. And basically, the rapture was coming in their lifetime. They would be the end. They would be the last people out of the stadium. It's a narcissistic thought, but it's a consistent thought. And now the thought has sort of shifted from religious people to more agnostics and atheists. And the thought is not about the rapture, but it's about nature and climate and more sort of less...
more real things that we can tangibly see.
Real things. Yes. And so part of me looks around and I go, oh, this is end of days. Like, here it is.
Sure.
These guys, there's all these wars breaking out everywhere. And all the nut jobs got the nukes, and you hear Greta Thunberg talking, and she's like, we're not going to be here in 9 years if we keep going, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then there's another part of me that goes, maybe I'm just as guilty as the religious guy from 500 years ago because I'm a narcissist, and I think this is going to end on my watch.
Right.
And I don't know what to think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it will end on your watch or on my watch or on any of our watches, but I mean, we are pushing towards that. I think we're moving in that direction. Whether it happens during our lifetime or not, and this is again, psilocybin will help you because, like, honestly, once you do that, you go. It doesn't really matter when that comes. It doesn't really matter if you've done enough work on yourself. If you're happy with yourself, if you're finding a way to feel love, feel connection, feel happiness on a daily basis in small things. Like this morning, I took my dog for a nice walk for an hour before I came here. If I'm doing things like that and focusing on things that make me feel fulfilled and happy, it doesn't matter. When the end times come, whether it's a big flood or a big nuke, you know, Russia sends over a bunch, America sends over a bunch, we all get blown to smithereens. It doesn't really fucking matter. Because if you've done some work on yourself, when you're done, it's only a vessel. Your body's just a vessel.
Now, when the nukes are launched, do you have some sort of emergency orgy plan?
I do. I'm going to go and run to all the neighbors and knock on the doors and go, who wants it? I'm just going to be running up and down the street like, come on, we got 5 minutes before the fallout hits us.
I wouldn't even bother knocking on the door. I'd just put my dick through the mail slot. And whoever gets to it first, you know what I mean? It's end of days.
I did think about this. I wonder what my thought, if I saw a bright light in the sky and knew there's just like a couple of minutes until this is all over for me, what would I do? I wonder whether sexual desire would be something I would go towards. I just don't think it is. I think I'd pour myself, after 5 years of sobriety, I would pour myself a nice long whiskey, like a really nice whiskey, nice Japanese whiskey maybe, something like that. And then I'd sit down with my dog and I'd just watch it. I'd sit out with a pair of binoculars and like stare at the thing, and I'd just sit there with my doggy, stroking my dog.
Yeah.
That'd be the perfect way to go out.
I would join you on that.
Yeah.
I'd probably text
We'd
my
be
kids
there.
up.
We'd be in the woods together. Fuck your kids, man. Me, you, the dog.
Yeah, you're right.
And just kissing the tips.
All right. Let's do one more, Chris. What do we got?
All right. So there's this crazy video after a rapper's concert, Nardo Wick. So he just finished doing a show in Tampa.
I saw it.
And a fan comes up and asks, he wants to get a picture, and then he sees him like in the back of the club. So he goes and he has his phone out and he wants to get a picture, and Nardo's bodyguards sucker punch him twice, right? So he gets hit on the side of the head, it stuns him, and then another guy punches him in the face, and then he gets knocked down, ends up having to go to the hospital. And it's just this terrible video. But do you want to watch it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
You're going to put your hand up?
No, the guy survived. I guess he's got terrible problems though. But
like ongoing health issues from it.
Well, I think he's still in the hospital, and this happened like 10 minutes ago.
He's going to get a check though, isn't he? He's going to get a serious check.
I think Nardo's cutting a check.
Well, Nardo, he went on Instagram saying that, I don't condone what happened to my fan after the show. And in the video, he even, like, right at the end, you could see him kind of grab his gut bodyguard and tell him to chill.
Well, the thing about, all right, couple things. The first bodyguard overreacts and just cold cocks the guy. Once the guy is stunned and sort of out on his feet, the second guy laying into him is bizarre and sort of very dangerous.
It's almost like he might have some repressed trauma of his own, and might just be.
I would say he may be doing a little acting out. The first guy gives the shot. We can watch it, and it's like, what the hell? But it's the second guy. So the guy goes behind him, and he's stunned, and the second guy just dives on him like trying to kill him, which is a bizarre impulse for a guy who's just sort of slumped over.
Also, I hate the nature of these videos because we never get to see a lead in. We never get to see what's led to this moment. This kid's out cold.
And also the other guy, he doesn't really look like a bodyguard. He looks like a neighborhood dude who's hanging out.
He looks like he's part of his entourage. You know what I mean? Like, why did he slap him?
Yeah.
He literally throws a combo to his face. I mean, so in my world, that guy is more dangerous and needs to be incarcerated than the wife who tried to poison the husband and collect the insurance. These are the most dangerous amongst us. The wife that tried to poison the husband and collect the insurance is never going to do that to you unless you marry her.
I think they're both scumbags.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
that's
person's
hard
dangerous
to watch. I mean, if he's literally walking around with a phone trying to get a photo, what may have happened to lead up to that, I imagine, is he's gone, oh, come on, man, come on, let me just get a photo. Come on, bro, let me get a photo, let me go. And he's hassling. But there's a very easy way. When you're a giant bouncer like that, all you got to do is just push him away. That kid clearly had no...
Well, the first guy has some plausible deniability, which is he felt that his client was being threatened. He didn't know what the phone could have been a gun, whatever. And he slugs the guy. he's still going to get sued, but there's some plausible deniability.
Yeah, the second guy was a little animal.
As the guy was completely out on his feet and posed no danger, the second guy who slammed his head to the ground. I mean,
It's always interesting, the small ones, the smaller violent dudes always jump in once the big guy's already given a slap. Once they know it's all
Chihuahuas
okay.
and St. Bernards.
Yeah.
The Chihuahua's the one that's always doing the yapping. All right, I'm going to watch it again. It's too,
even the bigger bouncer tries to like stop him. He even just goes, whoa, like, like, what are you doing, man?
All right, so Nardo's getting sued.
Well, yeah, so they obviously want to press charges, but Nardo's not giving up the names of his guys.
Can I say quite shamefully, when you started this and you said, after a rap concert, Nardo, I don't know who the hell Nardo is. I've never heard of him.
I don't know who Nardo is.
I thought you meant Nardwar. I was like, Nardwar, the sort of the hip hop interviewer, got one of his fans beaten up. I think I couldn't imagine him.
That's Nardwar?
Yes, Nardwar.
Is he in the UK?
Oh, no. He's a very famous alternative interviewer who is very well respected, certainly within the rap community.
I'm not immersed in that world.
Strange white dude with a kind of curly hair and a little golf hat with tartan print on it. And he asks he does such a deep dive on his interviewees.
Oh, there he is.
Throws them out. There you go. I was imagining this guy. I was like,
what's that dude in Hall & Oates? All right. Well, there is another famous Nardo who's not in the rap community.
Right. Who's that?
We can find it. Emmy, you can look for it. You can find Louis De Palma. Put in Louis De Palma shouting out Nardo in the sitcom Taxi. The famous sitcom Taxi.
With Andy Kaufman.
With Andy Kaufman and Judd Hirsch and Danny DeVito and many others.
Belushi, was he in that as well or not? Am I making that up?
He wasn't. But Elaine, not Elaine. What is the actress with the photographic memory?
Mary Lou Henner.
Mary Lou Henner.
Yeah.
I think her name in Taxi, was it Elaine Nardo?
Yes.
Yes. So, so Nardo is what Louis De Palma was his name in the sitcom. He'd go, Nardo! Like, that's the original Nardo. Right. Now, I don't know if Nardo, the rap act, was a huge Taxi fan and took the name from that. I'm going probably not.
I'm going to go 100% yes.
100% yes.
100% yes. He's a super
big
into
Taxi
old comedy
fan.
series. Yeah, he grew up watching
and he loved
reruns.
Elaine Nardo
So much.
It's out there. There's got to be Louis. That was his big thing. He'd get into the microphone. He'd be in the cage, and he wouldn't say Elaine. He would yell, Nardo! And she'd come skirling along. Yeah.
And she never got anyone beaten up, as far as I know.
Not that Nardo.
No.
But the rapper whose name was inspired from her
So basically
work.
you're saying he's letting down the namesake a little bit. He's almost...
Elaine Nardo is not going to be
disrepute to
happy
that name,
about what he has done to besmirch her good name.
Yeah.
Does it exist, Emmy? Does Taxi with
I'm still looking.
What's
He's
the
doing
name?
the best
It
of Louis
exists,
De
but
Palma.
on VHS, I think that's unfortunately.
Yeah, or maybe on a wax cylinder somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself. But yeah, it was Danny DeVito. Just type in Danny DeVito yelling Nardo, and we'll see if something pops up.
Someone's going to, at some point, splice the sound from Taxi over that video.
Nardo,
Yeah,
pop!
Pop! Nardo!
Pop!
Yeah.
Oh, man, mash it up.
There you go. That's the remix.
All right,
right
I'm not
there.
going anywhere until you find Danny DeVito yelling Nardo. And that was, you looked it up, Chris. That is her last name, Elaine Nardo? Yeah, we got that part right. All right, do one more for us then.
All right. So Robert De Niro, he just spoke at the Gotham Awards.
He's pissed.
He's upset. So he had this whole speech written out, but then he appeared flustered as he read his remarks from the teleprompter, which scrolled back and forth as he attempted to find his place. And he realized that his speech was edited by Apple, who produced the film that Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yes.
So he decided to go off script, and we have the video of it. It's like 2 minutes long. We could watch some of it.
The beginning of my speech was edited, cut out. I didn't know about it. And I want to read it.
Don't encourage this elderly abuse.
It was, thank you. History isn't history anymore. Truth is not truth. Even facts are being replaced by alternative facts and driven by conspiracy theories and ugliness. In Florida, young students are taught that slaves developed skills which could be applied for their personal benefit. The entertainment industry
All right, hold on.
isn't immune.
They're taught that when they were enslaved, they learned trades when they were enslaved, and then when they were free, many of them went into those trades, which is not a lie. You don't have to like it, but it's historically what happened. So he gets right out of the gate with the lies, except for how could it not be true? You can have
I don't think that's the comment he's making. I think he's saying that the way it's being presented is almost that this was a boon in those slaves' lives. That,
it's not. The people who wrote the story, the people who wrote the textbooks are two elderly black scholars, and they said many slaves learned trades, and then when they're freed, they use those trades. That's all. This is them twisting that.
But if they were still back in whatever origin country they were brought over against their will, they probably would have learned a whole different set of trades that would have benefited them way more without, receiving 50 lashes on the back on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
That's the point.
Well, no, that's not the point. The point is
that's like going, listen, I am sex trafficking. That's like going, he is sex trafficking women, but... they're really learning how to fuck well, and that's an important thing that, they can put that to use on the streets when they get freed. It's not...
Listen, you're writing a history book, right?
Yeah.
You have to write about things that happened. It
Sure.
either happened or didn't happen, good or bad.
Sure. So you're also educating children. I think the way that you do that, you have to be at least mildly socially conscious of the information that you put into those textbooks.
Why is it hurtful to kids to accurately report that some slaves learned a trade while they were slaves and then opened businesses using those trades?
Well, it almost suggests that it was, like I say, like a positive thing in their lives.
It suggests that they have sort of dominion over themselves. Like it's a positive that they learned something and then applied something.
Yeah, but they would have learned way more in their home countries. That wouldn't have involved
they can
them
add that as an addendum. But what I'm saying is it's not a lie.
Oh, man.
He's calling it a lie.
Yeah, this one I don't know if we're going to agree on, Adam.
Well, you don't like slavery.
I definitely do not like slavery.
Right. But everyone in the world did it. Do you understand that?
At some point, yeah.
Everyone did it.
Yeah, most people did it.
Every nation was involved with slavery.
Not every nation was involved.
Predates the United States.
Right.
Do you know that?
Well, of course, there was slavery in ancient Egypt and the Roman Empire and the Grecian Empire. I'm aware of that. The Macedonian Empire
and
the
it kept
Illyrian
going.
Empire.
It kept going.
Sure.
Right.
There has been slavery
didn't
at every
invent
point.
it.
That doesn't make it, positive in anyone's life.
Who said that?
Well, maybe these textbooks. That's what he's suggesting, I guess.
He's lying.
He's lying.
They said, how you find fault with this? First off, it's a historical textbook.
Man, you got.
So you don't like the Hindenburg? Hindenburg caught on fire. You disagree, or you don't like it, or people died, or it was bad.
Definitely caught on fire.
I caught on fire.
Yeah.
All right. So am I allowed to write that?
Of course, yeah.
Or you don't like people dying in a dirigible?
I get what you're saying, but they're not saying. God. I mean, that's that. I don't even know if those two things.
Well, here's the question: did people learn a trade while they were slaves?
Oh, again, I haven't done enough research on this to make any.
Well, do you think it's possible that they wouldn't learn a trade?
Yeah, they probably learned how to pick cotton because that's what
some
they were
did, but then
doing, right?
others learned how to build or blacksmith.
Understood.
Okay, can we agree on that?
Oh, but yes, yeah.
Okay,
some people
so then can we also agree that once they were freed, they remained blacksmiths and made their own job?
That was probably, maybe.
No, that's had to happen.
Here's the deal, man. Just because you are taught a particular trade against your will that you never wanted to fucking learn in the first place, doesn't mean that's a good thing for you. Just because
there is no good thing for them.
Because those people learn how to
but who said it was a good thing? That's not in the textbook.
That's how it's been presented.
It's
certainly by Floridian political figures who have defended the reasoning for including that in the textbooks. They have presented it, and I've seen that. Certainly, that one thing I can say because I've digested some of the material. They have presented it like this was positive for these people's lives. That has been a common.
Well, learning a trade,
being
being freed and possessing a skill
learning
is
a trade
better
under
than
duress does not mean that is what you would remotely have been interested in learning, exploring, or becoming if you had been living your life as a free person.
Yeah, but that's not part of the curriculum.
Sure, and I don't necessarily feel like that needs to be part of the curriculum either. It doesn't add anything to the learning that I'm getting. Learning that people.
You're writing a historical account of things that happen.
Sure.
So either it happened or it didn't happen. But if it happened,
it
good or
bad,
bad, you put it into the script.
What was the reasoning for the inclusion of that in the rewrite?
The reasoning?
Yeah, what was the
is
reasoning
that it happened historically because they said to people, recount what happened over the course of slavery.
See, I disagree. I think that it was included in the rewrite of these textbooks to present history in a slightly different light, in a light that is more favorable to, to.
But why is it your job to figure out the light? It either happened or it didn't happen.
Sure, it happened. A lot of things happened. This morning I had a massive shit, but I wouldn't have come on here and immediately gone, hey, just so you know, I had a shit this morning. All right. It's not necessarily useful for the conversation.
You're not making sense. They wrote a textbook about something that happened. He's calling it a lie, except for it happened.
Right.
So it's not a good example of a lie. You don't like it. I don't like it, but it happened.
Understood.
That's what I'm saying.
Understood.
All right, we'll let him continue.
We can agree on that.
Okay. Oh, we got more?
That's it. That's all he said. And then he paused.
Wait,
he had a Mitch McConnell. He just sat there for the next 2 minutes.
10 seconds. Mitch McConnell maybe got punched by Nardo's goons.
This could be applied for their personal benefit. The entertainment industry isn't immune to this festering disease. The Duke John Wayne famously said of Native Americans, "I don't feel we did wrong in taking this great country away from them. There were great numbers of people who needed new land, and the Indians were selfishly trying to keep it for themselves." Lying has become just another tool in the charlatan's arsenal.
Well, by the way,
the former president,
both things were just things that either happened or somebody said. You disagree with both of them, but they're not examples. There's a million COVID examples of lying, for instance. This is John Wayne drunk saying something stupid about Indians, which he did say, which we disagree with. And then this is a historical account of slavery, but not good examples of lies.
For themselves. Lying has become just another tool in the charlatan's arsenal. The former president lied to us more than 30,000 times during his years in office, and he's keeping up the pace in his current campaign of retribution. But with all his lies, he can't hide his soul. He attacks the weak, destroys the gifts of nature, and shows disrespect, for example, by using Pocahontas as a slur. Filmmakers, on the other hand, strive, and this is where I came in and I saw that they edited all that.
All right, he's turning an old blowhard. Poor Trump's like, if I get reelected, I got to do 7,500 lies a year average. Otherwise, I'm not going to
beat those numbers.
I'm going to lose to my personal best. All right, you can stop. Look,
So anyway,
De Niro is an idiot.
Apple wanted him to obviously just talk about the movie.
Yes.
So they took that speech and they revised it and delivered it to the teleprompter less than 10 minutes before the event started.
Yes, because they didn't want the old blowhard pontificating about how much he hates this country either. They wanted to kind of stick to the script, which was their movie. He's an idiot.
You know what's stupid? I think they're all idiots because none of them understand the reasoning they're there for. If you're going to invite Robert De Niro to come and accept an award and give a speech, then expect him to talk about the things he's passionate about if that's where he's at in his life.
Oh,
which
yeah.
it clearly
No,
is.
that's on
and
them.
Vice versa,
He's going to do it.
If you're doing movies with Apple, guess what? They got fucking slave shops in China. You're working for the devil anyway, mate. So if you truly care that much, set up your own independent production company and make your own movies with your own money.
I would argue many of those slaves that Apple employs do learn a skill, and it can be implied. It can't be applied once they're free.
Making an iPhone isn't a transferable skill.
You take that right out to the market, man. Take it to the street. Open a kiosk.
There you go.
Homemade phones.
There you
Come
go.
on now. Where's your imagination? All right, Jeff, this has been a slice of heaven. I really mean it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed talking with you. It's been fun.
Yeah, how often you out in L.A.?
Oh, I live here. I live down the road.
Oh, I thought you were
10
New
minutes
York
away.
based. Oh, well, then come back anytime you like.
I would love that.
It's a fun conversation.
I would love that.
All right. By the way, the stand-up special, Jeff Leach, a comedy spectacular, available as we speak. JeffLeach.com is where you go.
JeffreyLeach.com, actually. Sorry. JeffLeach.com is a Texas state Republican candidate who I do not want to be associated with.
My mistake.
No,
JeffreyLeach.com.
Just Google it. You'll find it. It'll be there.
The co-founder of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, is going to be on, and we'll do that right after this.
You're about to hear a preview of The Jordan Harbinger Show with Ishmael Bea, who at the age of 13 was forced to become a child soldier.
The first day that we went to war, I think it was the most terrifying thing that ever happened to me just on the way there. There was an ambush and then we started exchanging fire. And there was a kid that when we were training had looked up to me. He was next to me and there was an explosion and his body flew and he was scared. There was blood all over my face and everything. And I just lost it. And I started shooting to kill. When you go and take out another life and dehumanize it, in reverse you dehumanize yourself. Your own spirit, your own being, and it takes a lot of undoing. I was once a kid who loved hip-hop, Run DMC, LL Cool J, learned Shakespeare, wanted to be an economist, and then I became a soldier.
To hear about life in a war zone where he fought for 3 years before being rescued by UNICEF, check out episode 622 of The Jordan Harbinger Show.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Just ran a left turn arrow. Get it on.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Jeremy Boring is joining us. Ladyballers is the name of the new film. It'll premiere exclusively on Daily Wire Plus, and that'll be tomorrow as you hear this, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Jeremy starred in, directed it, and it's an interesting story, not only the movie, but the path to the movie. Good to see you, Jeremy.
Good to see you.
So tell us, I've seen the trailer. I've heard you interviewed on it on Ben's show, so I know a bit about it, but tell us the story of Ladyballers.
Well, it's all right there in the name, I think. A guy this morning asked me, what's the plot? And I said, well, it's called Ladyballers. It's a ragtag bunch of former high school state champion basketball players who they're down on their luck now. They don't know how to get back in the game. And their coach comes up with the brilliant idea of having them identify as women. What starts as them dominating women's basketball quickly becomes them dominating every woman's sport.
Yeah, it's a bizarre time we're in because every reasonable, logical, normal person or anyone who has a daughter who's involved with any kind of competitive sports is steadfast against them competing against a male. And, it's one thing if they're playing volleyball or basketball, but contact sports, action sports, MMA, stuff like that, it's physically dangerous to their daughter to play. So we have this bizarre construct where everyone ostensibly agrees on this premise. I do not want this. I do not want my daughter competing against males in sports. And when she's done competing against males in sports, when she goes to her locker room, she does not want to see a male with male genitalia walk into the locker room and expose themselves to her, even if they identify as a female. So everyone agrees on that, but yet you will be destroyed if you say that out loud. That's an interesting place to be as a society.
Yep. Well, we pretend that it's controversial, but to your point, it's not controversial at all. I don't even think 80% of people on the left don't believe any of this nonsense, right? It's become a kind of sacred cow that you're simply not allowed to speak about. And that used to be considered great fodder for comedy. I mean, one of the critiques we've gotten since we released the trailer for the film is you guys aren't real comedians. And that's true, but real comedians didn't make the movie. There was a time, my personal premise is I think Barack Obama actually just destroyed comedy. I don't think that there is really a comedy movie genre anymore, certainly not like we had in the late 90s and the early 2000s. That entire kind of film just came to an end. But we need that in our culture. We need somebody to make entertainment that mocks the absurdities that go on all around us. And so we're happy to be trying to do it.
Now, what's the premise in terms of Obama destroying comedy?
Yeah, well, I think that, for the left, especially in the early days, 2007, 2008, Obama sort of emerged as a kind of religious figure. You may remember the head writer of SNL at the time made the argument that it was as though Obama were carved from a single piece of pure obsidian, that there was literally nothing funny about him at all. And I think Obama essentially rewrote the rules, not only for comedy, but for comedy especially. He said to comedians, he said to journalists, he said to academics, your job isn't to seek truth. Your job isn't to speak truth to power. Your job isn't to mock absurdity. Your job is to be agents of social change. I think about Bill Clinton all the time in this regard. If Dave Letterman hadn't made jokes about Monica Lewinsky and the blue dress in the 90s, he wouldn't have been able to have lived with himself. Now, that's not because he was on the right. Dave Letterman's very far to the left, but his identity as a comic was that he had a responsibility to mock the powerful, to mock the absurd. Today, comedians don't see that as their responsibility. They, like so many others, see their responsibility as being agents of progressive change. And that's left, I think a part of the culture's natural immune system now has been eradicated, because the role that comics have always provided, the role that journalists have always provided, and academics and others, is to be part of that immune system to help us, not get caught up in these sort of du jour crazy ideas, not to get caught up in, the new powers that want to wield their powers over us. Those tools have now been taken away from us to be able to see those things for what they are.
Well, what people don't realize is good satire and short bursts are more powerful than long proclamations by stuffy dignitaries. For instance, you were forbidden from talking about the origins of COVID and may have come from a lab or came from a wet market. And then everyone sort of bit their tongue for X amount of months and even years. And then Jon Stewart went on Colbert's show and made a very short, sort of funny joke about why it's absurd for us to think it came from a wet market when the lab is up the street and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, everyone went, oh, okay, so I guess it's okay to talk about that now. He's not an elected official. He's not a politician. He's not anybody, but he's a comedian. And he basically said, oh, now we can do this. And it's not like a switch was flipped, but it's a dimmer switch that got turned up where people went, oh, okay, I guess it's okay to bring this up or to mock it or to laugh about it or to discuss it. So that's a good example. And during COVID, that's what I was saying. I was saying, where are the comedians? Where are all the comedians? I live in California. All the comedians live in California, and the ones that don't live in New York. And there were two states and cities, California, New York and LA, that were completely locked down, and I didn't hear word one from any comedians. Not a word from now.
So you couldn't hear them. You couldn't hear them through their N95 mask.
Right. Now, no, there was fringe guys who talked about it, but nobody who had a gig. Nobody who could have been separated from their job. And I would say, and I said during the time, I said, boy, when you get the comedians, you've got everybody, because they're the last to go. You can get the school teachers and you can get the politicians and you can get the moms. But when you get the comedians, that means you got everybody.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think about growing up in I was a teenager in the 90s, and how much of our social ethics actually came from Jerry Seinfeld during that period of time. I grew up I'm from West Texas, so we only eat Mexican food, and so my entire life you eat these chips and salsa, and you're just dipping and dipping and dipping. And then Jerry Seinfeld makes a joke about double dipping. And for the 30 years since then, I've never seen anyone stick a chip that's already been bitten into a jar or into a bowl of salsa, which used to be completely common practice. No one had ever thought one thing about it.
Right.
But we've lost that out of our culture. And it's one thing to think about what it means for eating a bowl of chips, but what does it mean for our politics? What does it mean for our social policy? What's it mean for how our daughters get treated out in the locker room or playing their sports? I mean, there's actually an important role. I mean, you know this better than anybody. There's an important role for comedy. And if we don't get it back, I think that it spells something really bad for us as a culture.
Well, there's an important role, especially in that if you're arguing with someone with a different viewpoint, you don't oftentimes win those arguments. But what the left does very nicely is they mock. and the mockery works fantastically. And you could literally take a Jon Stewart type versus Ted Cruz with all the facts, have a debate, and all Jon Stewart would have to do is get in one jab, little mockery, audience erupts, and then at the end you go, who won the debate? And you go, the comedian did, because he fucked that guy up.
You know, at the Daily Wire, from the very beginning, I've had a policy not to let our guys ever debate a comedian, because you can't possibly win. It doesn't matter. To your point, it doesn't matter what facts you bring to bear. You got nothing.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, and hearkening back to SNL and Obama, he was just a no-fly zone for 8 years. And SNL, all they do is make fun of the president. I mean, that's essentially what they've done for 42 years or whatever it is. Then all of a sudden, there's no Obama jokes, and they went, well, there's nothing funny. I mean, he's perfect. I mean, there's nothing. And by the way, even if there's nothing there, you still have to find something and make fun of. I mean, Chevy Chase did Gerald Ford falling all over the place or something. Gerald Ford was a All-American football player. Probably some footage of him slipping down some wet stairs or something, and that's all they did was have Chevy Chase fall over the desk every time he was Gerald Ford. But recently, in the last week or the week before on SNL, they started getting into Biden. And the reason you can kind of tell when things are absent, because that was all the talk. Like, oh, SNL made a joke about the president. And it's like, yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. Right. They just don't do it during Democratic administrations, which is now very telling. But the fact that they started on Biden, that's a very eerie harbinger for Biden. When you've lost SNL,
I agree.
That's the beginning of the end, right?
Sure. Well, now if a comedian does make a joke, especially if SNL makes a joke, then it does have far more political meaning than it would have when they were just doing it in the ordinary course. In the movie Ladyballers, because I'm not a comedian and I was trying to write this script, and come up with fun things. And I did write what I think is an incredibly Adam Carolla joke. And I won't give the whole thing away here, except to say that the punchline is cordless reciprocating saw.
Oh.
So I think maybe when you see it, you'll be proud of me.
Yeah. Now, cordless reciprocating saw could be what we call a Sawzall, but that's a brand name, like Q-tip is a brand name for cotton swab, also known as a bayonet saw as well. But it could also mean a jigsaw or scrolling saw. So I'm going to have to watch the movie to make sure you got the nomenclature right.
Now you have a reason.
I would have anyway, because the trailer looks funny, and I'm generally now just in support of anybody who does not support crazy narratives. And one thing, and maybe COVID sped it along, but the pushback has now been sort of organized and legitimized. Do you sort of feeling that folks like us just sort of went along with it, take your beatings on Twitter, take your beatings in the media, just take your beatings for having opinions that you think are very sensible but go against the common culture. In the last year, I feel like they've got it together, and there's a legitimate pushback for I don't even want to say the right, just the people who think in a linear, logical fashion.
Yeah, team reality, right? Like, you don't see Dylan Mulvaney on TV anymore. Remember when you couldn't turn on the TV, you couldn't open up the internet without Dylan Mulvaney anywhere? And I really do think that Bud Light was a turning point. But that's the first time that you saw the right really mobilize in an effective way and create economic consequences for some of this madness. And I'm generally pro-free speech. I don't think boycotts are all that commendable in normal times. So we don't live in normal times, though. And I think it was really powerful what happened there. And the left definitely pulled back. You're hearing less of the madness. It's not that the madness itself has gone away, but they're being a little bit more discreet about it at the moment. To me, that just means we're on the right path. We got to keep going. We got to push harder, and we got to bring mockery into our arsenal, as well as a bunch of other tools that Team Reality hasn't been accustomed to using, because Team Reality goes to work. Team Reality throws a catch with their kid. Team Reality, is living their lives. They're not devoted to the culture war 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like some of the lunatics that we're up against are. So if we pay attention at all, I think that we'll be able to make a pretty big impact.
Well, you're always at a disadvantage because you're like Israel versus Hamas and Palestine. It's like you just want to get along. You just want to raise your kids. You just want to have a good civil society. You want to enjoy music and the arts. Like you just want to be, it's like COVID. All I wanted to be is left alone. But I'm at a disadvantage because I have a bunch of weaponized nut jobs around me who don't want to leave me alone. But it's the same if you had a crazy roommate or a crazy neighbor. The sane person always suffers because you're saying to your crazy neighbor, I just want to get along. I don't want any trouble. The ball comes over the fence. I'll throw it back over the side. You don't have to call the cops. But if they're crazy and that's their mission, then at some point when the ball comes over the fence, you need to ram a steak knife through it and paint a frowny face on it and kick it back over the fence because that's the only thing they understand. Yeah. Sadly, you thought they wanted to be left alone. You thought they wanted peace. You thought they wanted to just raise their children. You thought they loved this country. You thought all these things for a long time.
It's one of the big tricks in life, and I learned it early in my marriage, that you actually have to communicate with people based on how they give and receive information, not based on how you give and receive information. So my wife and I had this fight early in our marriage. I have no doubt that I was wrong. I have no idea what it was about. And that's not me making a guys are always wrong joke. I'm just saying my wife is a decent person. She usually doesn't get angry unless there's something to be angry about. But when she got angry, she really yelled at me. She lit into me in a way that I am not wired. I would not in any way have done that to her. And I was 1 foot out the door. I was so upset by this. And instead of doing that, I sat down with her and I said, hey, listen, if I ever yell at you the way that you just yelled at me, I just want you to know I'm done. Like that would mean over. I wouldn't yell at my worst enemy that way. You are dead to me. So, but I'm going to just guess, since you generally seem to like me okay, and we just got married, that probably that's not what it meant when you did it. And we had a good talk about it. We sort of came to the conclusion that, not perfectly, but that I would endeavor to think about what she means, not what she intended, not what I receive. And when she's coming up with her behavior, she would do the same. So it's caused us to be in a better place where if she does occasionally raise her voice, I understand that she's not telling me that I'm a lousy son of a bitch. And also she endeavors not to raise her voice that way because she knows that's not how I would receive it. And I think that the West generally, or the good guys, for lack of a better term, generally, just assume that everyone only means what we would mean in a similar situation. We're always imparting to people the sort of benefit of the doubt. When some people speak much different languages. Some people speak the language of power. Some people speak the language of strength. Some people speak the language of shame. Some people speak the language of coercion. And if you don't hear them on their own terms, you'll never actually understand what it is that they're trying to tell you. And you'll have no idea how to respond to them.
Yeah, that's the new world order. They don't. Sometimes it's micro. Oftentimes it's macro. Don't assume they want what you want just because what you want is logical.
Right.
Ladyballers is the name of the film. And we're also going to do a trailer for Birchum, my animated series, which will be, if you purchase Ladyballers exclusively on Daily Wire Plus, where it's going to premiere, you can see a trailer for Birchum, which we're pretty proud of, too. So that'll be coming up on the Daily Wire as well.
Yeah, I'm thrilled about Birchum. Working with your team, Mike August and Nate Adams and Dave Coleman on my side, I really think you guys have created something genuinely special. When I saw that first animatic that you had done years ago around the character, I thought it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. When we found out that it was possible, we might be able to collaborate on it together. It was a real treat. So I think people are going to be thrilled with it.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. I think you guys are going to love it. You're going to love the trailer, and you're going to love Ladyballers as well. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. exclusively on Daily Wire Plus. Jeremy, I look forward to seeing you in person when I'm in the Nashville area at some point. And congratulations on keeping that train rolling, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Adam.
All right. Let's see. Director Andrew Davis, who's done Under Siege and The Fugitive and so many big movies, is going to join us right after this. All right. Andrew Davis, director Andrew Davis. Let's see. Some films you've heard of. The Fugitive. Amazing film. Above the Law, Under Siege, personal favorite. Code of Silence. So many films over so many years. Good to have you in studio.
Nice to be here.
We'll pull that mic right up to your soup cooler there and even tilt it down just a little bit. That'll be helpful. Good to see you.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Now, there's a movie, one of them, 45th anniversary, your first film, Stony Island.
My first child.
And how did the Steven Seagal connection come about with you?
Well, I made a film called Code of Silence, and Seagal, I guess, liked it. And I was going to do another film for Warner Brothers. And they said, well, we want you to meet this guy, because I was thinking maybe John Voight can play the lead. It was about kids stealing televisions off the docks in San Francisco. So they said, well, meet this guy, Steven Seagal. I knew nothing about him. And so we had lunch together, and he says, I picked you. I saw Code of Silence. I want you to do my first movie. I said, who are you? What have you done before? He said, well, I'm Michael Ovitz's martial arts teacher, who was the biggest agent in Hollywood at the time.
Right.
And, and I said, well, I don't know if you can act. He said, well, all the other directors I talked to said, let's just go. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. But, so we did a screen test with Kelly LeBrock.
Sure.
And I went to Chicago with him.
Was Kelly LeBrock Weird Science?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
It was his girlfriend at the time.
Yes.
And I took him to Chicago, and I put him in a car with some real cops, and we did a little martial arts kick-ass scene in the basement of a garage, and a touching scene with his supposed wife that was based upon this other script I was going to do. And I came back, and they saw the test, and they said, wow, this is great, I said, but I think you're making the wrong movie with this guy. He told me the story about how he's a kid from Detroit who went to Japan and was in a dojo, and he opened a dojo, and he worked for the CIA, and he did all these things. And I said, whether it's true or not, it's a more interesting story. And the producer went, oh, my God, what are you trying to do? And the studio said, how long will it take you to write it? And I said, 5 weeks, because there was a strike going to happen with the Writers Guild.
Mm-hmm.
And I hired Ron Shusett, who wrote Alien, and a guy named Stephen Pressfield, who later became a very famous novelist. And we wrote the script based upon a guy who was in Vietnam, who had witnessed all these horrific things and comes back to Chicago and has to deal with the issues of what's happening now in Central America. So that was the basis of Above the Law.
And then Under Siege came after that.
Yeah. Several films later, Terry Semel, the head of Warner Brothers, said, get Davis back together with Seagal.
I'll tell you, that film, it's a gem. And, Tommy Lee Jones acted his ass off in that film, and so did Gary Busey. Like, they were both great. Seagal was great in it. Like, everyone, Erica Eleniak was the Playboy, jumped out of the cake. Everyone was fantastic in that film.
Yeah. Tommy's actually in the film longer than Steven Seagal.
Is he?
Yeah. And then we did The Fugitive immediately after that. And I had done the package with Tommy before with Gene Hackman.
Yeah, the Tommy Lee, he stole The Fugitive. In a weird way, Under Siege and The Fugitive was kind of the same, which is it was about Harrison Ford or it was about Steven Seagal, but it's really Tommy Lee Jones who kind of stole it.
Well, I wouldn't say he stole it. I
don't want to assign a pejorative to it. But
he won the Academy Award. Okay,
yes.
But Harrison, if you just having watched the film a lot lately in the 30th anniversary and remastering it, Harrison did a great job. And as Tommy said when he was standing over the dam, he was the greatest silent actor we have with all of his emotional stuff. He didn't have anybody to talk to in that movie.
Right.
So I think they both. It was a two-hander because you really cared about Harrison and you really didn't want Tommy to kill him because he was innocent.
We have Siskel and Ebert's review. I used to love watching Siskel and Ebert, and Siskel. No, let's see. Siskel died first, and then Ebert died?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's how, and it's sad. And it was just appointment viewing for me back in the day. I think I used to watch at the movies when it was like on PBS, like way back in the day. It
started on WTTW in Chicago, and then it went out, Disney bought it.
Now, you hadn't seen their review of of Under Siege. Somebody
sent this to me yesterday.
And you never saw it?
I never saw this.
Well, I guess we can watch it. I can watch it for the first time now. Although, to be honest, I probably saw it in real time, 26 years ago or whenever. When did it come out?
The year before the Fugitive, 31 years ago.
Holy shit, I'm old. All right, let's see. Now, this is the kind of movie that they would hate today. The critics would hate today, but we'll see what they have to say about it.
Coming up next, a review of the most popular film in America right now, Steven Seagal in Under Siege.
I'm thrilled to death to hear that. Yeah.
That's Steven Seagal, of course, in Under Siege, and to date, approximately 6 million people have already seen this film, and I'm sure that makes 6 million satisfied customers, because Under Siege is simply wonderful, an exciting,
Wow.
and funny, and totally energized action picture with a pair of terrific villains and a very funny hero. Seagal, of course, is the hero, a Navy cook who knows more than just how to stir up good grub. He finds himself on a nuclear warhead-loaded battleship in the Pacific that is suddenly under attack from an American-led terrorist group. Tommy Lee Jones is the bad guy in charge, a disaffected CIA agent.
You really think blowing up a bunch of innocent people is going to change anything? What made you flip like this?
I got tired of coming up with last-minute desperate solutions to impossible problems created by other people.
Jones has either killed or locked up everybody on the ship except ex-Navy SEAL Seagal and a Playboy playmate, Erica Eleniak, who has been brought on board for a party.
Tell you what, I'll carry everything. You kill whoever we run into, all right?
I have a little rule about killing people. Well, actually, I have 2 rules. See, 1, I don't date musicians, and 2, I do not kill people, okay?
Under Siege is a lot of fun. I've been recommending it to men and women alike, stressing it for women, as a matter of fact. There's such a joy to the filmmaking and the performances that it doesn't seem all that violent. Tommy Lee Jones, as always, is a credible villain, and Steven Seagal seems more human than ever before. Obviously, I strongly recommend Under Siege. It's one of the best times you're going to have at a movie this year. It was one of mine.
And I completely agree with you. And
All
when
right.
I saw the trailer for
You
this
can stop
movie,
it. I don't think critics would do that these days.
Well, Roger mentions my name, though.
Oh, shit. Okay, then we need to see Roger. Sorry, I didn't know he was gonna call you out.
trailer for this movie, I thought, here we go, Die Hard goes to sea. I thought I could predict the whole movie. In a way, I could predict the whole movie, but it was really fun because of the performances.
Yeah.
And I think you ought to mention the director, Andrew Davis, because
Yes.
this guy is unsung.
Yes.
And he made Code of Silence, which is the best Chuck Norris picture. He made Above the Law, Seagal's first film. He made The Package with Gene Hackman. He is an extremely efficient action director who here takes a situation that looks completely predictable. And as you say, he has a lot of fun with it.
Well, it is mounted very well, and when that movie term means it's big scale. The shots, what I'm really impressed with is Andrew Davis and his editor. They lay the shots in just when you need them. You're saying, hey, wait a minute, what's happening down at the other end of the ship? And bang, if he isn't there with that shot and picking up that action. The fun of this, we have great casting. We've been
now you've been called out.
Okay, good.
I can't believe you waited 31 years.
I didn't. I was
to
busy.
see this.
You know, I don't know. We were busy getting ready for the Fugitive. You know.
What ship did you film that on?
Well, it's supposed to be the USS Missouri, which we actually photographed in Pearl Harbor for the anniversary. But then we used the USS Alabama in Mobile Bay.
Was it mothballed at the time?
It was owned by the state of Alabama.
And they gave you free reign, like they gave Cher to shoot that video?
Yeah, and then we wound up building the sets inside. But I'm here to talk about my first movie.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. It's a film called Stony Island. It was a film made in 1978, and it's being re-released by Freestyle Releasing, which is making it available on all these different platforms. This film, I had the best reviews of my career from this film.
Better than this?
Yes.
Wow.
From Charles Champlin, from Ebert, from Arthur Knight, and it was a story about my kid brother, Richie, growing up on the south side of Chicago, the last white kid on the block, putting a band together. And it's a story about the music in the south side of Chicago and a cultural collision that has happened over and over again, where the black music came up from the south and it melded with Chicago, and you got guys like Paul Butterfield, and you get people like Herbie Hancock and all kinds of people from the neighborhood of Stony Island. Shaka Khan, Curtis Mayfield, they all come from Stony Island. So this is a story about kids making music together and being a common language.
Butterfield, I think, got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame recently, I think, and Curtis Mayfield died recently. Am I making those two things up? That's all I got. So in this story, essentially about your brother, and you were young. This is your first.
I was 30
project.
years old when I made it, and I had seen American Graffiti, and I had seen Mean Streets, and I said, I'm going to make a film about my growing up. And I thought it was really interesting to have this texture of the city. And so if you look at Stony Island, you'll see all my other movies. It looks like The Fugitive. It looks like Above the Law. It looks like Code of Silence, because the neighborhoods and the trains and the fabric of the culture of Chicago is such a part of it.
Yeah, just had Dan Aykroyd in here a week or so ago and was talking about the Blues Brothers and Chicago and that whole vibe. And that was really cool.
Well, Dennis Franz is in the movie. It's his first picture. He was in the Organic Theater, and I saw him. And Susanna Hoffs, the partner of Tammy Hoffs, her daughter, was a PA who later started the Bangles.
Oh, Susanna Hoffs. Yeah, she's been in here, too.
And Ray Don Chong is in the movie, and all kinds of other people. Meshack Taylor.
Chong's daughter, Meshack Taylor's in Designing Women.
Yeah, Oscar Brown Jr.'s in the movie.
Oscar Brown Jr.
And Mayor Daley's funeral is in the movie. And I wanted to shoot St. Patrick's Day Parade, but then Mayor Daley died, so I said a few years later, when we need to escape from City Hall and The Fugitive, let's shoot the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
How'd you get the budget together for the film?
We scraped $6,000 points, raised $300,000. I had to learn how to do securities laws. I had to learn how to raise money from state to state. And it took a long time, and we finally did it. And a company called World Northall bought the movie.
What's on the plate for you now? What's the state of the business?
I wrote a novel that's coming out next summer called Disturbing the Bones, a political thriller set against an archaeological dig in southern Illinois. I work with a guy named Jeff Bickers, a great writer, and I hope to turn that into a feature film. And I'm developing a modern version of Treasure Island called Silver's Gold, set in Louisiana with the treasurer Jean Lafitte.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And then there's another project. I got the rights to a Gene Wilder book called My French Horror. I'm calling it My French Amour, which is a World War I spoof, a comedy, a bittersweet comedy set against World War I.
This is a Gene Wilder book?
Yep. A novel he wrote.
I didn't know he wrote novels.
Well, he did.
Gene Wilder passed?
Oh, yes. Gene Wilder's been gone several years.
Yeah, COVID screwed me up with people passing. I can't figure out who's here and who's gone anymore. But Gene Wilder was quite the talent.
Yeah.
So you got the rights to his novel, and you're going to do that.
We're trying to get all these things off the ground. It's a crazy world right now. With the studios going through what they're going through and streaming, and the cost of movies skyrocketing and not making their money back. So. People keep saying they don't make movies like you have anymore, but my movies are playing around the world all day long.
Yeah.
And so life goes on. I did a documentary a couple of years ago called Mentors about two incredible Italian photographers who are now, one just passed at 100 years old, the other's 93, Tony Vaccaro and Santi Vasale. And it's available on my website along with Stony Island and other things. AndrewDavisFilms.com. And it's an amazing story about these two guys. One photographed Mussolini hanging upside down with blood coming out of his nose. The other one photographed the best pictures of Sophia Loren and all kinds of famous people. And one helped the other after World War II when they met. So it's something I'd like to develop a series about called Mentorship.
And like a series that would end up where?
Where would you recommend?
I don't.
You've had more shows come and go. It's unbelievable.
Well, you read my wiki page.
Yeah, you've done a lot of stuff. I don't know. You're a real mover.
I think of myself as lazy, basically.
But just making a deal on all these projects is not easy.
Yeah, I don't go out and honcho all of them. People come to me, or I just, basically what I do is I go, somebody should do a documentary about Paul Newman and his racing life. And then everyone goes, no one's done that. And then I go, oh, then we should do a documentary about Paul Newman's racing career. And then you do one. And then in the course of doing that, you meet interesting characters and you go, hey, that guy, Willie T. Ribbs, first black man at Indy, that guy's an interesting guy. We should do a doc about him. And then
he probably had a mentor.
Oh, mentors. I wonder if we're losing our grip on it or something. Most of the people I know that are successful got helped by mentorship and want to mentor other people. And I don't know if you experience this, but I used to say this all the time just a few years ago. I'd go, nobody really asked me any questions.
I'll ask you some questions.
Go ahead.
Did you know that I saw Paul Newman race in Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin?
Really?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Oh, my God. It must have been in the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Smothers Brothers were racing there, too.
Yeah, they were avid racers as well.
Right. And then I looked you. I was a journalism major. I'm a protege of Studs Terkel, so I could get involved with this. So I wanted some football players. You're a big football player, right? You almost had scholarships and all that.
Okay, what I did with football is I did as much as I could do, given my limited talent with football. But it was enough to get scholarships to smaller schools.
So when I was a young assistant cameraman, well, first of all, starting college, I waited on Dick Butkus.
Oh, just passed.
Okay, and then I did a commercial with Bart Starr for Kellogg's.
Sure, the great Green Bay Packer.
I worked with Jim Brown in a film called The Slams and cast him later in another movie. And then I got to shoot a documentary on Jim Plunkett. So those are four major ball players that I feel like I can relate to with you.
Yes, they're all pros.
And the other thing I want to tell you that my mother and father were in the group called the Chicago Repertory Group with Studs Terkel. And there was a woman in that group whose father was the head of the Red Squad, by the way, in Chicago.
I don't know what the Red Squad is.
Well, they looked into the communists. Do you understand?
Oh, that squad.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so her name was Viola Spolin. Viola Spolin is the mother of improvisational theater. Her son, Paul, started Second City.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that you were involved with improvisation, I thought there was a connection there.
I was deeply involved with improvisational theater, which I don't think most people think or know about me because they think I'm sort of a construction guy, football player,
like Harrison Ford
or something. Yes. Although I don't know if you've got his number, but people say, oh, Harrison Ford was a carpenter too. I'd like to have a little competition with him.
There was another guy who was a carpenter. They put on a cross.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway,
JC. Yeah, I was very much involved with improvisational sketch comedy for years and years and years.
There's another movie I want to talk about. Holes.
Holes. I know that movie.
Yeah, with Shia LaBeouf and Sigourney Weaver and Jon Voight and Patricia Arquette and Dule Hill. And
took place in the desert.
20-year anniversary of Holes. We had an incredible screening.
Oh, I didn't know Holes was your film.
Yeah.
Oh, well, see, they left it off my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, Holes was... Oh, no, it is here. Yeah, I got it. Sorry. His late father, Nathan Davis, played Shia LaBeouf's grandfather in Holes in 2011. Yeah, it was a weird film that was also popular, sort of beyond cult status. Like, it was a popular film.
It was an award-winning book. Now, the Louis Sachar's novel won the Newbery Award and the National Book Award for children. And so it was beloved by teachers and all kinds of people, and we got to adapt it. And the only thing I changed is I said to Louis, this is about a generational curse. I said, put my father in it because when I was a kid, my grandmother lived with us for a while in this tiny bedroom where we could jump from bed to dresser without touching the floor. And
right.
so my dad, Nate, who was in Thieves, the Michael Mann's movie Thief. He's the old guy who shows him how to bust into the safe, the metal
Really? Dad, an actor?
Yeah, and he was
Ferrari's coming out soon.
Yeah, and he was in Grapes of Wrath on Broadway with Gary Sinise and John Malkovich.
Wow. Yeah. Your dad's pretty accomplished, or was.
Yeah, very.
Holes was about like a boys' sort of juvie prison camp in the desert, and there was these creatures coming out of the ground.
Yellow spotted lizards.
Yeah.
So when I talk to people, I say, well, what did you direct? I say, The Fugitive. If they're older, they go, oh, my God, my favorite movie, right? If they're younger, they say, I don't know if I saw The Fugitive. I said, did you see Holes? And they go, oh, my God.
Yeah.
So I feel lucky. I spanned a couple generations here. And Stony Island is another generation, which is, if you look at it today, it's hip because these are really attractive kids with great music, looking like they did in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And it had the musicians who were in the movie and on the score were David Sanborn playing sax on it.
Wow.
And there was the New York Mafia who did the David Matthews score, not Dave Matthews, but David Matthews, the composer who took over at CTI.
Right.
And then there's all this young raw talent that Gene Barge, who's the mentor in that movie, was a producer at Chess. He's famous Gene Barge.
The record label.
Play It Daddy G, School Is Out, 2:45, Gary and U.S. Bonds. That's Gene Barge playing sax solo. His rhythm section at Chess was Donny Hathaway, Maurice White, who later started Earth, Wind and Fire.
Oh, right.
Phil Upchurch and Minnie Riperton sang backup. And
Minnie Riperton, her hit was Loving You with the super high falsetto voice.
Yeah.
And her daughter is
Saturday
Maya
Night.
Rudolph.
Right.
See, I know stuff.
Yeah. So this is the whole Chicago music scene, you know.
Wow. I guess Chicago really had it going on, like long before we started with the Seattle sound and
Well,
all
Louis
that
Armstrong
stuff.
got off the Illinois Central, 63rd and Stony Island.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and Gene
it's got
Krupa
a
went to
rich
my high
history.
school.
Really?
Yeah. And Herbie Hancock went down the street to Hyde Park and Shaka Khan and all those other people.
So the movie, did it get a wide release when it came out?
No. It opened in, for example, it played in 12 theaters in Chicago, but to these rave reviews. And black kids started going into white theaters. And the theater owners go, uh-oh, we can't let black kids come into the neighborhood to see this movie. They pulled the picture. And we were devastated. And they tried to re-release it as My Main Man from Stony Island as a blaxploitation film, which it's not.
Right.
And it sort of disappeared. I mean, everybody's career started from that. You know, some of the kids in the band went to go work with Stevie Wonder or Hugo Iglesias or Smokey Robinson, that kind of stuff.
Do you think it has a Rotten Tomatoes score? Have you ever checked?
I haven't checked.
You don't check up on your reviews, do you?
Well, I tried to.
Let's take a guess. Well, what do you see if Stony Island has a Rotten Tomatoes score? But I
don't think people even know about it.
Well, did it get reviewed?
Yeah.
We'll see if it has one.
1978.
And then what would you guess Under Siege? Now, The Fugitive. Give me The Fugitive, Stony Island, and
Under Siege.
Under Siege. I'm going to guess The Fugitive is high, very high. Could be into the low 90s, which is pretty damn high for an action. High 80s, low 90s, for sure. That's what the critics. People probably have it higher. Under Siege, people are snobs, critics are snobs, and I'll bet you the critics have it lower than the people. And Stony Island, I don't know.
Okay.
Because that could be a no score.
Well, you need to
depending on
watch
people.
it. You need to see it.
I'll watch it and I'll review it, even though I'm not certified. But I'll do it as an audience.
Because some
member.
people think you're certified.
Or certifiable. All right, what do we got? Let's see if we can put it up on the screen.
Which one do you want to start with?
Start with Stony Island. Let's see what the Rotten Tomatoes people had to say about it. Audience 40%. Nothing with the critics, but the critics
loved it.
Have 3 reviews, and that should be enough. They should just put up with the 3 put up. Now 40%. That seems low. Why?
I don't know.
Fuck those people.
Yeah.
All right. Now we go on to The Fugitive. Like I said, I think that's going to be in the, ooh, wow. 96 with the critics. You can't do, I don't know if we call this an action movie, an action thriller, or whatever it is. I don't know that you can crack the 90s.
It's a drama, too, you know.
Yeah, but 96 with the critics, 89 with the people. That is a very high combined score. I think that Under Siege is going to be the opposite. I think it'll be lower with the critics and higher with the people. The 3 reviews, so it says on my screen, of Stony Island the 3 critic reviews are all positive. So it would be 100% on that. All right, Under Siege. Let's see. No, I was wrong. The critics have it at 79 and the people at 62. I was incorrect about that. I figured it was like a movie for the people. But still, Steven Seagal isn't making it into the 70s anymore.
Well, let me just say this.
And you ever talk to him?
I haven't talked to him in a long, long time.
How was he like to work with?
On Above the Law or Under Siege?
Either one. Did he change?
On Above the Law, it was easy because he was unknown and he was trying to make his way and he was making his first movie and he was able to follow along what needed to be done. He contributed a lot. He really contributed a lot. He was beloved. He was an action star who didn't look like a blonde-haired wasp.
Right.
That the kids of color could relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a real thing in terms of his martial arts and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
By the time we did Under Siege, he was quite arrogant.
Because he got popular.
And he was a pain in the A,
Mm-hmm.
Not always, but some of the time, okay? Like, for example, there's a scene in the kitchen of the USS Missouri.
Yes.
I wanted them to laugh and smile. They're watching Bush on TV at the memorial, right?
Right.
And he's making fun of the big military guys.
Right.
And I had to sort of be a court jester to get him to smile. And that's why he comes off as human in the movie.
Yeah, so he kind of turned into a head case later on.
Well, I don't know. I mean, anybody who wants to hang out with the mob and Putin, just whatever you want to do.
He hung out with the mob too?
Well, you can read the papers. There were all kinds of things about what he was doing with them, what they were doing with him,
And Putin. And is he even in the United States anymore?
I don't think somebody told me he can't come back.
Oh, he can't come back?
Because there's issues for him here.
Tax issues?
Sexual, I don't know.
Sexual issues?
I could be wrong, but that's what someone told me. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Stephen. Didn't mean to offend you.
So he's in Russia full time?
I believe so. He's a governor of a state in Russia. And
he's a governor?
Yeah, he's an ambassador or something like that. He travels around teaching people how to defend themselves.
I've seen the videos where he beats up 150 Russians.
Anyway.
But it's always one at a time. That's the part. Yeah, man, you hang around long enough, you see everything, don't you?
Well, it's interesting. I've worked with some real characters in my life.
Who are the biggest characters besides Seagal?
Well, what's the definition of character? Gary Busey's a character.
Oh, my God,
I love
he's a character.
Gary was great on Under Siege,
Yes, he's a character.
And let's see. I loved working with Alan Arkin and Andy Garcia on Steal Big, Steal Little, in a movie I did after The Fugitive.
Were they characters?
Real characters.
Oh, really?
Real characters.
Is character a euphemism for pain in the ass?
No. Fun.
Okay, fun.
Fun. Well, it can mean anything.
Yeah, I guess so.
It can mean anything. Gene Hackman was a tough character.
Was he tough to get?
I was a young director, and I had to find a way to sort of relate to this incredible actor.
Yes.
And, and it's funny because, he was cutting some lines and Tommy Lee Jones, he's messing with my kids. He can't cut my lines. And Gene was saying, we don't need to say all these words. And Tommy's, there was a little tension there. So that was a very interesting moment for me.
What movie was that in,
The Package.
Oh, The Package, yeah.
Which is a really good political thriller.
Hackman retired.
Wrote novels. Went to Santa Fe.
Went to Santa Fe and wrote novels. But he's still with us,
He's
right?
still with us as far as I know. Hello, Gene. I miss you.
Yeah, he was great. I probably first came across him in the Poseidon Adventure. Irwin Allen. Yeah. I think that was Irwin Allen. Missed those days. So how was Tommy Lee?
I love Tommy. We did three movies together. All did really well, and he contributes tremendously. He's a great writer of his own dialogue, and bring me what are you thinking? Well, think me up a chocolate donut with the sprinkles on top. That's his line in The Fugitive.
Right. Yeah, so he contributed.
A lot.
Yeah, him and No Country for Old Men. Man.
Yeah. A lot of people are scared of Tommy. I can understand, but luckily for me, the connection I saw him in a thing called Backroads, I think. There's a Marty Ritt film. He played a boxer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was really great. So I wanted him to be in the package. And when we first met, he was on a guard on the Harvard football team. His roommate was Al Gore.
Yeah, he played football at Harvard. Yeah.
And the quarterback of that team was George Lalich, who was the quarterback of my Bowen High School team in the southeast side of Chicago by the Mills, a Serbian.
Wow.
And there was a connection there I could make with him, someone I grew up with.
And that's how you used your old classmate to get in on?
Well, his father actually was betting against him in the Yale game.
George's father.
George's father. I don't know Tommy's father. I don't think he was alive by then.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What a weird, strange, I mean, to quote the Grateful Dead, but what a trip.
Yeah.
I mean, just to work with all these people, to see all these people.
Morgan Freeman, great guy. I loved working with Keanu and Rachel Weisz in Chain Reaction.
Oh, Keanu.
Schwarzenegger.
What'd you work with him on?
Collateral Damage.
Oh, right.
And, it's interesting. Collateral Damage was supposed to come out the week of 9/11. And if you look at the pictures of the buildings going down and the smoke, there's a picture of Schwarzenegger in the background in a big billboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so they pulled the movie because it's about a fireman who loses his family in an explosion.
Right.
They pulled the movie and it opened several months later, and so it really hurt the opening of the picture. But I liked working with Arnold.
Yeah. God, who haven't you worked with?
John Turturro was great. He's in that movie. Leguizamo's in that movie.
Yeah.
Let's see. Eartha Kitt is in Holes.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis Farina was a cop when I cast him in Code of Silence.
And then went on to just basically play a cop in everything, right?
Well, he didn't play a cop in Midnight Run.
No, Midnight Run is another quiet, not quiet, but I don't know, underappreciated.
And George
really
Gallo,
good film.
my dear buddy, wrote it and has done real well with it.
Midnight Run is one of those movies that my son, who was maybe a couple of years ago, was maybe 15. I was just like, loves movies. I was like, have you seen Midnight Run? He said, no. I said, we're just going to sit down and watch this film. And it's just great. It's funny. Yeah. I mean, it's really a comedy.
And De Niro's great in it. I heard you talking about De Niro earlier. Well, I didn't mess.
Well, he's turned into an asshole.
Well, I disagree. I think you should be proud you were fired by Donald Trump. It's an accolade, right?
I just mean, look, there's plenty of room and plenty of reasons not to like Trump, but you don't have to use every forum into some excuse to basically go on a tirade about Trump. That's all. That's all
I understand that maybe a one-note political position to take.
Yes, like we get it. You don't like it.
But, but when you think of the billionaires who own networks who are financing the what he wants to say, and you think about the coverage he gets every day, there aren't that many people willing to stand up and say, this is who I think he is.
Oh, Trump?
Yeah.
I feel like everyone has stood up and said who he is. There's not many people.
Well, how do the numbers stay this way? Are the people that crazy, dumb? What do you say?
Well, half the country votes for Trump, but they don't own the microphones. I mean, the people that own the microphones are pretty clear about how they feel about Trump. And there's nobody, you can watch the Academy Awards. There's not going to be any pro-Trump talk at the Academy Awards or the Emmys or anything else.
Questioning that most people in the media are progressive or liberal or whatever you want to call them, okay?
Yeah.
Educated.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the fact that when I was a kid, if you worked in the mills, you made $157 a week.
Mm-hmm.
You had good public schools, a pension plan, a health plan. Your wife didn't have to work.
Yep.
The tax rate on the rich was 70%.
Really?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, and so they could support good schools. They could support jobs in America. And there was a middle class. This is what all this whole thing about it's going on with the unions and everything. So what happened was the guys who were the billionaires started all these foundations.
Mm-hmm.
And the foundations could write legislation. And then they could hire lobbyists, and they could say, we really think the tax rate should go way down for these guys.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have public schools all the time, and we shouldn't feed kids and this and that. So life had changed in America.
Well,
and
I was
born in 40. I was born in 46.
In L.A., the Democrats don't like school choice, but they can be educated at a lower cost through charter schools and things like that.
Yeah.
So the answer is you're paying $20,000 a kid through the school system and you're not getting results. Somebody says I can do it for $8,000 a kid and we'll get better results.
That makes sense.
But you're against it. Not you, but I just mean the union is against it. And that's kind of the problem. So I don't necessarily think it's all about we need more money. We spend a ton of money on kids. We're not getting the results we want because I think the bureaucracy is too great. I think if you scaled it down and you had school choice, you get more bang for your buck. So there's this thing which is, I was just talking about this with our previous guest. I don't think giving the government more money necessarily results in a better outcome. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I mean, think of the military.
Yes. Think about anything.
Who was it? The Republican head of the military showed up. Rumsfeld, was it? He said,
Donald Rumsfeld.
First day, there's $1 trillion missing. We don't know where it went.
Yeah, and we're still there with the military. They don't know where the money's went.
So the tragedy is that, as we look at the world today, the weapons industry is blooming. And just to kill people. So when you think about all the things that you care about what America should or could be, and what the world should or could be, it's a drop in the bucket if we started taking the money we're all spending on war and death.
I agree. But De Niro's still a douchebag. That's all I'm saying. He's stupid. He's coming across as dumb because he gets all this, and a narcissist. I liked it when he was quiet. The two guys who should have never opened their mouth were Robert De Niro and Bruce Springsteen. They're two guys everyone thought were smart, and then they started talking, and now we think they're dumb.
Well, I don't know.
They had it cool.
Yeah,
he's an idiot too.
Yeah, anyway, I think that, listen, if De Niro sounds like he's a kid from New York, he is a kid from New York.
No, I get it.
And he knows another kid from New York who came from the big shot kid named Trump, and he's it's like two street kids looking at each other.
He and every human being in the auditorium he's addressing hates Trump and is vocal about it. So now shut up, get your award, and go home.
Well,
we know where you stand.
I think, yeah, okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
but you're not converting anybody in that church.
So let's talk about why Apple cut it out, because they don't want to offend Trump.
I don't think anyone's worried about offending Trump. Everybody offends Trump. It's nonstop.
Well, he says, I'm going to look into your taxes. I'm going to get rid of the Justice Department if I get reelected. We're going to go after everybody. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, because they've been going after him. Oh, let me ask you a question. Hunter Biden's laptop, is it real or fake?
I don't know anything about it.
You don't know?
I haven't been studying that part.
51 experts said it was fake, Russian disinformation. Who are those people?
That his laptop information was fake?
Yeah, I'm saying it's a two-way street. What do you think Biden's doing?
I don't know.
They're all doing it.
Yeah.
Sad. That's now where we're living.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone's scared to say anything about Trump because they've been saying it nonstop.
Well, they're not scared to say anything about Biden either.
Yeah, that's true. But
so
they
that's
just
how
don't
polarized
say it.
we are.
Yeah, well, the left says this about Trump, the right says that about Biden. Here we are. But they're
So let me ask you a question. If you had to write an agenda to feed kids in America and not get them shot anymore, to prioritize families and being able to keep people together so that if there's a father and a mother and a house to live in, that's how you have healthy kids.
Of course.
Right?
Always been a fan of that.
What would you recommend?
I think what you have to do is you have to be honest. And I know that always sounds like bullshit at the top. You have to go, where do all the problems stem from? The problems stem from broken families. The problems stem from single family, single mom, whatever. That's statistically everyone in jail, everyone involved with crime, everyone who fails out of school, everyone who has all the societal ills that we don't want them to have. It all starts with a broken family. And when you look at the families that are intact, they do much better in all facets of life in terms of incarceration and everything else. So the first thing you have to do is you have to go, who needs our help and who doesn't need our help? The black community needs our help. The families are broken. So then you have to say, what should that help be? And you have to go, what have we done and how is it working? I feel the same way about the homeless community. Like, we just spent $16 billion in California for homeless. We have more homeless problems now. So it's not necessarily they need more funds. It's they need a program. We need to implement something. We need to figure something out.
It's interesting you mention that, because first there's two aspects. Which of those people are completely mentally ill?
Yes.
And then if you're developing social services in California, they're going to come to California. It's warm, and they're going to take care of me.
Yes.
So that means, rather than being in the subway in Chicago.
Yes, it begat. We create a welcoming environment for it, and we have more of it.
Right.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out, what are we talking about? Who are the communities that are not flourishing? Who is flourishing? And family and education is something I've always said. That's the way out.
But it's interesting. You've got some of these mass shooters coming from families with mothers and fathers, and and the father bought him the gun. You know what I mean?
But that's here's the. I don't want to get mired in mass shooters because it's fringy stuff. As much as people like to really drill down on it and talk about it a lot, statistically, it's not impactful. There's many more kids just shot by other kids in shitty neighborhoods in Chicago and Baltimore and everywhere else. You know what I mean? And the death toll's much higher in those numbers than the mass shooters. The mass shooters is kind of glorious in a macabre way, and we focus on it, and it captures headlines.
It seems more tragic.
It seems more tragic, but a 14-year-old dead is a 14-year-old dead.
Right.
And
so the question is, to go back to the family and the structure and the opportunities to be able to keep that cohesive form,
Yes.
And it goes back to work. It goes back to jobs and schools.
Yes.
My mother taught kids how to read in Chicago for 30 years.
Yes.
And if you give nurturing to kids and you give them the skills to, get a job and go do things and have the motivation that they can succeed besides becoming a criminal.
Yes. But the government not very good at bestowing that on people. That starts at home.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
The one option has been the military. You go in the military, you get an
Peace
education.
Corps, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's what I think. I think, you take people who need support and help and you put them to work. You rebuild the country. You rebuild the hospitals. You support old people. Think of the number of old people from the 40s and 50s who were born then, who are going to need help getting older. How many people old and single and no family?
But also people have to get their shit together. They have to save money. They have to plan. I mean, at a certain point, it's on you. It's not, the government is not going to intervene. If they do, they're going to fuck it up. If you're going to retire, start planning. Like, there's going to be an element
of course, that's the case. But
personal responsibility.
That there's always people in between for one reason or another. The people who go broke because they can't afford their medical bills. People lose their houses and they're trying to pay their bills. So there's a certain percentage of people who are just vulnerable or got a really bad deck cards.
Yeah, I get it. But again, we can't worry about what I would call, we just have to work in terms of big to small statistics and everything else. That's the way I do it. I know when people go like, oh, what about this? Or what about the one kid or the whatever? I go, sorry to hear it, but we got to work in terms of masses here. I could correct everything, but
I think it gets back to, it's like you said, how do you have healthy families? How do you have a support system and love?
That's it. It's 100% family based. It's not, look, the school can only do so much if the kid comes home to chaos and poverty and everything else. It's the family needs to stay intact.
You had a rough upbringing, from what I read.
Yeah.
And you were on your own early on.
Yeah.
So you in spite of those issues, you survived, did pretty well.
Yeah, what I did is I said, nobody's going to take care of me, including the state. I'm not looking to any politicians. I'm not looking for any legislation. I'm not looking for anybody. I'm poor, and I need to fucking go to work. And I worked. And that was it. I worked at McDonald's. I didn't like it. I dug ditches. I didn't like it. I went to a construction site and I dug ditches, and I was like, I'm tired of digging ditches in the sun. I want to get in the house where the carpentry's going on. And at some point, I worked my way into the house. And then once I got in the house, I was like, I'm going to be a carpenter now because I don't want to go back out and dig ditches in the sun. And I was desperate, and I didn't have any support, but I knew I had to work. I didn't blame anybody. I didn't look for any politician to save me. I just said, it's going to be up to you, sink or swim. And there is a thing that can level the playing field for you. You're just going to have to outwork everybody. You'll work your ass off, and I think if you work your ass off, things will work out. And that's what I did. Yeah. All right, Andrew, we've come to the end of our segment, but this has been an interesting conversation.
Good.
I will say that I'm going to be doing stand-up tonight, one show in Fargo, North Dakota, at the Fargo Theater over there. So come on out. Then Nashville, Zany's 4 shows. So you got to work Friday and Saturday. And then Huntsville, Alabama, 2 shows on Sunday. Andrew Davis, the movie Stony Island, 45th anniversary. We should go to the website. Am I right? AndrewDavisFilms.com.
It's available on all platforms. Freestyle releasing. It's on all the digital platforms. And if you go to my website, you can also see this documentary with Quincy Jones and Chuck D, The Making of Stony Island, with Susanna Hoffs and everybody else. How we make the film, how we put this little film together years ago.
So do that. Also, Jeff Leach, a comedy spectacular that's available. And you can go to his website, jeffreyleach.com as well. And Jeremy Boring as well. So until next time, it's Adam for Jeremy and Jeff and Andrew saying mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you.